be like that.
You might want to run that under the arm so it's not.
Yeah.
Run the headphone. If you bring the headphones back.
I see.
Yep.
Ruining stuff already.
Perfect. Cord goes on the left ear.
My first time. Never put headphones on before.
You're good. You need some extra length there.
Nope, we're good.
Relatable.
Relatable indeed. What's up? I'm Chris Story. I am a pretend photographer.
Pretend, yeah, okay.
In a world filled with billions of people, there are countless untold stories waiting to be discovered. These untold stories hold the power to inspire, educate, and connect us. Whether you're interested in media, automotive, or just here for a good story, welcome to the Underline Podcast.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything pretend about it, Mr. Drag and Drive. You are known literally all over the country.
Yeah,
Yeah. There's no pretend. You're legit. All right. So before we get into what you've been doing, kind of, I say these last 2 years, I'm sure you've been doing it a lot longer than that, but I feel these last 2 years, you've really made a name for yourself in the Drag and Drive community.
Yep.
Before we get into that, where did you grow up? Are you from Oklahoma?
No, I'm originally from a small town called Hesperus, Colorado. Actually born in Durango, Colorado, but the family is we're from Hesperus.
Okay.
And then moved around a ton as a kid. So we weren't in one place for any length of time. A bunch of that time, though, my early years were spent in the Four Corners area. So mostly Colorado, New Mexico.
Okay. Real quick.
Oh. Yeah, I got to lock this chair because it's going to.
Look, the mic was going to be a little closer and scoot up on me.
Okay. Is the chair too squeaky?
I locked it.
Oh, okay.
That's fine. It's too.
Okay.
Should be good.
That is.
The issue is.
Yep. You may be able to.
Yeah.
Yeah, what you're doing right there.
Yep. Double tip if the leg is facing towards you.
Right.
Technical difficulties.
Technical.
All right.
Imagine
Anyways, so you grew up in a small town in Colorado.
Yep.
How long were you there for?
So not super long. We quickly moved. So my dad was going to school at UTI in Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
So we stayed in my grandparents'. They had like an apartment, if you will, next to their house. So we stayed there for some of my early years, and then we moved to Farmington, New Mexico, and I lived there for probably like 10, 11 years before I made the move to Utah. My parents divorced, and I had the choice to stay with my dad or move to Utah with my mom, and a bunch of factors went into that, but I had never really known my mom's family at all. We just never went out that way, and so it was a good opportunity to kind of meet that side of the family, and as well as that, get away from a shitty situation that I was in. So we moved to Salt Lake City. I lived in the Salt Lake City area for probably another 4 or 5 years before I eventually made the move back to Oklahoma to live with my dad, which my dad moved to Oklahoma in that time frame. So.
Okay. Can I have you just scoot up a little bit closer to your
Yeah,
mic
no
there? So what year did you move to Oklahoma?
It probably, I'm really bad at dates. I want to say 2014. I want to say, but
okay.
I could be wrong.
So you haven't been here for super long?
No, I haven't been here for super long. And when I got here, we moved around a ton. So like when I got here, I lived in Sapulpa. Then we moved from Sapulpa to like Tulsa, like in the middle of Tulsa, and then we moved from there to Owasso and lived in Owasso for quite a little.
And by we, that's you and your dad?
My dad and I, yeah. And
okay.
he had a girlfriend at the time that had a few kids that I call brother and sister now, like that we kind of like all grew up together with. So
okay, really interesting, diverse living situation growing up. You know,
yeah. I mean, we could talk for hours about that because it's just it's a interesting kind of shit show of
Yeah.
of moving around all the like I never once finished a school year in a single school.
Wow.
Like I moved probably once a semester. Just moving around from different cities and jumping jobs, and my mom was dating different guys, and so she dated a guy here, and then we would live there for a little bit, and then they would break up or whatever, and then we'd move to another spot and live there for a little while. And so I was always moving around a ton. I was never in one spot. Like my entire childhood, I kind of lived out of a box and a duffel bag.
What was it like to deal with that?
It was, man, as a kid, I don't.
You kind of indifferent to it, or was it like, man, that was really trash? Like I never really got a childhood kind of thing, or
At the time, I was super indifferent to it. It's just the life that I lived. I kind of realized that I was different than other kids in that aspect. I never, looking back on it now, it's kind of hard to not be bummed out about it a little bit.
yeah.
However, it's prepared me for the life that I currently live, because I'm never in one spot for longer than, a week or so.
Legacy of the nomad continues.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Okay. So you found your way to Oklahoma. How old were you when you moved out on your own?
I was 17 when I got kicked out of my dad's house.
Oh,
So
plot twist.
we got evicted, and my dad left me a note on the back of on the back of the thing that said "Good luck." And so I lived in my truck for it was most of my senior year.
Wow.
Yeah,
So you were essentially homeless your senior year of high school?
yeah. I couch surfed a lot. Slept on a bunch of friends' couches. Slept in the truck a few times. I was working multiple jobs at the time as well. Barely going to school, barely paying attention.
But you passed. You got your high school diploma?
Yeah, the only reason I got my high school diploma was because I wanted to go to the Army, and you need a GED to go. So,
Yeah.
which that's a part that I never really told anybody because it's so recent, and I didn't want to bother anybody else. Looking back on it now, I should have, because I had people I could have went and stayed with, and people that wanted to help, but I didn't. I don't know if it was pride or if it was.
This is part of being a man. You don't want to face the L and
Exactly
owe somebody.
Yeah.
It's easier just to take a bite of your own shit sandwich and move on.
Yeah, exactly. So, but just again, moving around a lot, not really doing working a ton. I worked at Arby's and at Shoe Carnival at the same time. So I'd leave school and I would work at Shoe Carnival from like 3 to 6:30 or something like that, and then I'd finish Arby's from 7:30 to like 11
So you went from retail to food.
every day. Yep.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and I worked like 6 days a week most of the time, and then when I wasn't working, I was riding BMX. That's what I did that was kind of my release at the time was riding BMX.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
So when did you kind of get away from that? When did life start to look different for you?
When I joined the Army, that was a huge.
It's a great reset for anybody in a bad spot.
Yeah, it's a fantastic reset for anybody in a bad spot. Like if you don't know what you want to do, that's a fantastic avenue to go down, because it teaches you a lot about.
Teaches you everything you don't want to do.
Exactly. which is everything that's essential for life, like discipline, getting up early, making sure you're presentable, like being not a shit person. Now, granted, there's a lot of shit people there, but
going for a ruck at 4 a.m.
Oh, dude, I miss it sometimes, honestly. Like
a little bit. Yeah. It's weird. It doesn't make sense. It's like, I assume that's what the, what is it? What's that, disorder where it's like you fall in love with the person that beats you? Stockholm syndrome.
Stockholm syndrome.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah. And it's exactly what it's like. I don't really miss the bullshit, but I miss the people, some of the people. I miss the camaraderie, which I'm sure you understand. So.
I do. How long were you in for?
7 years. I got kicked out 2021 and 2021 or
Dang.
22. Again, I'm really bad at dates. So.
Okay. Kicked out. Can we talk about
that?
Yeah,
that's fine.
What happened?
If I'm being honest, I used the COVID shot as a scapegoat because I was in the reserves at the time, and I really despised the unit that I was in. It was kind of a ton of really lazy people, and I was part of the lazy people, if I'm being honest. that unit was a really easy unit to be in because there was kind of no rules. You just had to show up and sign in, and kind of just put in your hours and leave, and nobody really bothered you or whatever. But I was really dissatisfied with what I was doing, and I kind of used it was 2020, by the way, I remember now.
Okay. That makes sense with the shot.
Yeah. And I kind of just used it as my scapegoat to finally be done with it. It was kind of like my easy way out, because that was right around the time when I was trying to quit my job to pursue what I do now for a living, and I kind of needed my weekends and my 2 weeks in the summer.
100%.
And again, I wasn't really getting anything out of it. And to me, at the time, like my thinking was that like it wasn't going to hurt me enough to, like, if I got kicked out, the benefits of me getting kicked out greatly outweighed the benefits of staying in, or the getting kicked out made more sense than the discipline of staying in, if that makes sense. So like, if I got kicked out, I got maybe even if I got a dishonorable, it was still in my head worth the time, or worth it to pursue that.
Well, refusing this shot, isn't that just like an admin code? Like it's a really just kind of general, like nobody really cares type thing.
Yeah. So
it's almost not even getting kicked out. It's kind of just, I don't know.
Yeah. So there's kind of a couple different avenues to do it. My unit was particularly bad about tricking people into, like, they would just tell people like, hey, we're going to go on this detail, get in the van, and you go to get in the van, and then you would end up at Walgreens, and they were just like pumping shots at you. So like,
no,
in 2019, which, you know, I filed complaints and stuff about this, but in 2019, I got 6 flu shots because they kept losing my paperwork, and they would just load us up in vans and take us to Walgreens and be like, here you go. Dude. Yeah. So, that was part of my other thinking of just never going back to the unit, which is why my course of discipline was maybe stronger than others were, because the right way to do it would be just to refuse the shot, but continue to go to drill and continue to go to FTXs and whatever else. And I didn't. I just was like, all right, peace. See you later. Like, don't call me. I'm not going to answer. Like,
so funny enough,
send me a letter.
I actually have a friend down in DFW, and he kind of did the same thing. He was just like, man, I'm really tired of this. I'm just going to stop going until they kind of out-process me on their own.
Yep. And I didn't get a phone call for probably 8 months. So I didn't attend drill for 8 months. I got phone calls like for the first month from like my section leaders and my chief, and he would call me and be like, hey, where you at? Hey, where you at? Hey, where you at? My commander that I was really cool with would call me and text me like, hey, you know, like if you continue going down this route, we have to discipline you in a different way. If you go, like, we can out-process you and you can keep rank, and we can probably get you an honorable, and like, don't worry about it. But if you don't, like, it's going to be dishonorable. It's going to be, you're losing rank and whatever. And that's what happened until they overruled the whole COVID shot thing. And now it's general discharge and some other stuff. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So that's almost like the military equivalent of like having your charges expunged.
Yep, pretty much.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was all like a thing.
Yeah. So theoretically, I could go back and just essentially pick up where I left off. But you know,
we know better.
Yeah, I'm past that now. I passed that now. So.
Okay. So when did you first pick up a camera? When did that become a thing?
I actually looked it up the other day because we were doing some stuff for our website. It was 2014, so right around a decade ago.
Okay.
So I was shooting BMX at the time. So you know, we grew up in the era of magazines and stuff like that. So I've always just looked at the pictures and never really read any of the words. Partially because I couldn't read, but the other part because, you know, pictures are, you know,
that's the fun part.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so there's a photographer here not here, but in Tulsa by Kyle Kinsling, and I've heard that name. He's kind of the go. His Instagram's Focus, FOKUS, I believe.
Okay.
He does a ton of like street photography kind of stuff, but also does a ton in the BMX space. So he kind of like, after seeing his stuff, I'm like, oh, this is really cool. And so I started picking up a camera. And then my buddy JC, who ran a company, I think it's still called Rolling Productions, but we did weddings and that kind of stuff. So I kind of helped him on that avenue of just kind of being the second cameraman, and then really started getting the ball rolling with that. And then on top of all of that, I was trying to film like BMX edits for my, trying to grow my personal brand and go down that kind of route. So, you know, we were always taking pictures of each other and videos of each other, just trying to make it in that avenue of life. So,
yeah, that was kind of back in the era where you could just consistently post content and you would eventually have a good social media following. I mean, now it's just so absolutely oversaturated that you can't just be consistent with good quality anymore. It doesn't cut it. But back then, if you were consistent, you had decent quality.
Yeah,
you could pick up a following.
Yeah.
So that was back in 2014. That was roughly about when you were in, but you were reserved, so that wasn't full time, right? It was weekend drill.
Weekend drill.
Okay, so what did you do full time for work?
I worked at a company called JD Young, which, you know, they were an IT company. I was just doing basic stuff, which is also what I did in the Army. I was
Like help desk or?
I started as help desk, and then we moved into more installs. So we did like server systems, phone systems, that kind of deal. And then when I was transitioning out of the company, we were doing more VCIO stuff. So we would go to companies and essentially be their CIO and guide them into purchasing good equipment, managing their networks. And
yeah, so you essentially worked for like a consulting company, and people would pay like, you know, subscription fees and
yeah. So,
okay. I have a couple friends who do stuff like that, and a good friend of mine now does a lot of network maintenance for Microsoft. Pretty cool. He gets to go to a different city every week, and he spends Monday through Friday in that city just essentially sorting out whatever network disaster, you know, fixing all their switches and stuff.
Yep.
So yeah, that's cool. I mean, that's not super difficult work, but it's that happy medium of like, you can kind of turn your brain off at work, but you're not super poor. You still make like kind of okay money.
Yeah, I was making really good money for the time. Like so my uncle, I originally wanted to be, it's kind of a funny story. So I originally wanted to be a tanker when I joined the Army. My uncle's like, no, make those assholes teach you something first. You can always transition into something else later. So make them teach you a skill that you can actually use. And, and you know, I now have friends that went down that other avenue, and they say all the exact same things. Like, I should have done what you did, you know, because you can always get Option X later or whatever. You can always go to Ranger School. You can always change your MOS. It's not a big deal to do that. And so I was very fortunate that I got that advice early. Yeah. And that I went down that avenue, because I got right out of, you know, my first duty station straight into like a baller job as an 18, 19-year-old, where I was making way too much money for what I should have been doing.
Hell yeah.
And, you know, of course we blew it like you should when you're 18 or 19 years old, but we had a good time. You know?
You save when you're older.
Yeah, whatever. It's fine. Yeah, it's just money. You just make more.
Yeah. I mean, you're trading money for your experiences. Money comes and goes. Those experiences last forever. So like all the stupid cars and extravagant trips I've gone on, I'd do it all over again.
Yep. Oh yeah, absolutely. I couldn't think of anything I would change.
Okay. So you were working IT, you were in the reserves in the Army, you were kind of doing media in your free time, helping other companies while also building your brand. When did you make that transition of, okay, I think I'm done building my brand, I'm done with this day job, I'm going to go for it, this is going to be my career?
So there's kind of a median story in between that. So I was working this IT job, and I remember making... I shot 4 cars in a weekend, and I made, because we got paid weekly in that job. So I made what I made all week in a Saturday. And I was like, oh, you can make a few dollars doing this. Like, this is cool. So that kind of got the gears turning. And so I was trying to figure out a way to transition myself into, I was trying to position myself in a way to where I could always shoot cool stuff. Yeah. And so part of working the IT job is I kind of hated it because it was so mindless. I was really, really bored with my time. And a lot of my time was spent kind of sitting in the company car, playing games on my phone, just kind of waiting for the next ticket to come in. And kind of avoiding work in that aspect.
I'm sure the military was like that a lot too.
Oh yeah. Man, shit. But so I knew I wanted to switch something. And so I went back to working on cars, which is another thing that I did in my childhood. I worked at a performance shop, and we did basic performance work. I didn't do a whole lot of it because I was a kid and I didn't know shit about anything.
Right.
And so I started sweeping the floors there and that caught on me. So anyways, I knew I wanted to switch, and a friend of mine did interior for one of the. They're one of the best. What's the word I'm looking for? Resto mod like shops in the country, and they're based out of Sand Springs, Oklahoma. Howard Garage, they do great work, and I was very fortunate to get a job with them. My intentions with the job didn't align with the intentions that they wanted me to do. And so I ended up, again, being miserable in that job. And that was actually the job that I had quit to go.
So you signed up with them for a position and it kind of turned into something else?
Yeah. They needed a wrench man. They needed somebody to put cars together. And I was kind of like, okay, I can put cars together, but I also have this skill set that I feel like is extremely valuable to your company. And we just never really used it. Mm-hmm. We used it a little bit when we very first started, and then just kind of like dwindled off. And the truth of the matter is I'm not the best at putting cars together. I mean, not in the resto mod sense. Like, I'm much more of a modern GM kind of guy. So the 30s Fords and the 40s Fords and, you know, the hot rod stuff, I wasn't ever really familiar with just because it wasn't what I did.
Right.
And so I was not the best man for the job. So I kind of never really did exactly how they wanted me to do.
Yeah.
Plus I had my eyes set on something else.
It just felt like you were kind of trying to make it work. You didn't really feel like you were in your element.
Yeah. And at the time too, like, my wife was starting her company. So we have we don't anymore, but a dog training company.
Oh, you don't do that anymore?
No, we don't do that anymore. Bree's coming with me full time this year.
Okay. My condolences.
Yeah. So at the time we were kind of like picking the company up, like really, really starting to, like, it was gaining traction. And so I kind of needed to be in a position where my income was supplementing the house a little bit. Mm-hmm. Until her income kind of like picked it up and we could really just kind of live however we wanted to.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of what kept me there for so long. And then I kind of just realized I'm here for no reason. Like, I hate this job. Like, I have to make a transition. So, yeah, quit that job, helped her for like a few weeks. And then really dove deep into the photography thing full time.
Crazy. And that was in roughly 21?
Yeah, I think I was 20. It was 2020.
Okay.
It was 2020.
So 6 years of shooting before you finally were like, all right, let's do it.
And in hindsight being what it is, I really shouldn't have jumped the way that I did, because I really jumped cold turkey. Like, I didn't have, I had a few contacts from being in the racing world myself, because I raced for a long time. And we were just talking about that. I really shouldn't have jumped the way that I did. And I tell people don't do it how I did it, because it's really, really hard to do it the way that I did.
You got to be careful. I mean, if it can burn you and put you in a really bad spot.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I was fortunate because COVID years, her business was doing fantastic.
Yeah.
For some reason, I mean, we know why now, but like, the economy was doing great in that aspect, and people had some money to spend, and people were getting dogs. So like the dog training stuff was going really, really well, and that kind of helped afford us for me to be a bum for 2 years essentially.
Sweet, good job.
Yeah. And I didn't really start making money until this last year, if I'm being completely honest with you. But yeah. So if it wasn't for her business and doing that, like, I would have had to have immediately got another job, just because it was kind of a dumb thing it was an emotional thing to quit my job at that time, to just kind of commit to something I really knew nothing about it. But it was tough for like the first year, because also, like, I quit to go to Race Week, which is a Race Week 2.0, which was the first 2.0 we did. And that was in September. Right. And there's no racing. Like, there is, but you have to be able to afford to travel to Florida, and I couldn't afford to travel to Florida. So like, I quit my job in September, went to Race Week in September, and then it was like,
that's the end of the season.
It's the end of the season, right?
Worst time to quit.
Winter,
for those of you who don't know, who maybe don't have close media friends or anything, the end of September, getting into October.
Yep.
Things slow down tremendously unless you're involved with corporate work. If you're doing like private bookings and stuff, shit comes to a grinding halt.
Yep. And I tried a few different avenues to generate revenue in that year. Like we made a calendar, which helped get me through Christmas. We made T-shirts and hoodies and stuff. And the people from Race Week really stepped up and kind of.
Oh, that community is fantastic. Those are amazing people.
I can't say enough about the Race Week community. They're the only reason why I still do what I do today.
Yeah.
Because of their support through everything over the years. Like it's insane how
those
much
people are really like at first when I saw Adam, you know, kind of talking about it and saying that they were a family, I'm like, oh, another one of these cheesy family speeches, you know. But it's over time, like just seeing, you know, people like you and other friends who are in that environment and kind of seeing how all that works, it's like, damn, he's not kidding. Like this is for real.
Yeah.
Like competitors stopping to help fix each other's cars and stuff. Yeah. Like it's different.
It is different. And the people are awesome. And the cool thing is too, is like you go to a race week and now you have family everywhere.
Yeah.
So like I've been broke down. So like a fun story is I broke down in St. Louis in my white truck. If you remember the OBS that I had, I broke down.
You got rid of it?
Yeah. So that was kind of a whole shit show of a story, but
makes me sad.
I had to get rid of it. It's fine. After I got it, I buried it in the salt flats in Utah, and it is withering away in rust. So if you find it, don't buy it.
You didn't even like sell it?
So I traded it for a truck. A friend of mine had a crew cab truck for sale, and I was like, okay, I need a little bit more room.
Oh, that was a single cab?
Yeah, the white truck I had was a single cab.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, it was a 98 OBS Chevy that was 5.7 dropped.
It was sick. I loved it.
It was sick. It was a great truck. But yeah, it was me and my little brother at the time had just moved down from Utah to come live with me. And so I was putting his ass to work, and he was driving me around everywhere. And the kid's like 6'1", and there was just
tight.
It was super tight. Yeah. And all of our shit went in the back. And then every day you had to unload the back of the truck because you can't just leave it in the bed because people steal stuff.
You need a bed cover, man.
I got one, but they don't make a locking bed cover for the OBS, like the short box OBS.
That's
trucks.
A lifesaver for my Sierra.
Yeah,
love it.
Yeah, so they don't make one, so you just had to like unroll it and just like kind of like, okay, well, I don't feel like carrying that up there. If it leaves in the morning, I'll just buy a new one. Like sucks to suck, whatever. But anyways, I traded that truck for a crew cab truck that ended up being a giant pile of shit. Like it caught on fire a few times. Like it was
a few times.
Yeah, so. I traded my friend for it, and I never looked at the title because I'm an idiot.
Rebuilt?
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. And I couldn't figure out why, because the truck was so nice. Like it didn't look like it was in a crash, didn't look like it was whatever. I put a radio in it, and I looked and I noticed, like, you know, like the yellow O'Reilly butt connectors, the entire body control harness was yellow. Like, oh yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. And so I chose to ignore it. And then one day I'm driving, I'm like, smoke starts rolling out of the vents. I'm like, what is going on? And then like the dash starts to like bubble, and I'm like, oh, like we're on fire. So I like pulled because they're just like clipped in.
Yeah.
So I pulled that off, and I'm like, oh, like we're really on fire. And like sprayed water in there, whatever. I got it out. I'm like, okay, we're good. And then I fixed the harness to like get me back on the road because the truck shut down, whatever. So I fixed it with O'Reilly's butt connectors.
Oh God.
But I thought I did a better job than the last guy did.
They're still butt connectors.
They're terrible. Yeah.
Solder and shrink wrap, man. That's the only way.
So it caught on fire again, which was an ordeal. It was kind of the same deal. Like smoke started rolling out of the vents, except for this time it was like really on fire, and we had to put it out with a fire extinguisher. It was a real shit show. Put it that way. So I then fixed it with a real body control harness. I was like, this truck has a curse. I'm getting rid of it. Like it has to go. And then I don't remember what I ended up with after that. I think it was my Civic that I drove around for a little bit, and then sold that for my Lexus, which was like the best car ever. If you needed a good daily driver, Lexus LS 430, dude.
The 430. Okay, so does that have the 1UZ?
It's 3UZ.
3UZ. What's that?
It's the same thing.
Okay.
I think it has a little bit more displacement and VVTi.
Oh, cool. Okay.
It wasn't like the cool part wasn't the engine in that car. Like that car was ridiculous.
They're really comfy.
So comfy.
The engine actually kind of sucks.
The engine does kind of, it makes no power.
No power and no fuel economy.
Zero. It got like 9 miles to the gallon.
Yep.
But it was smooth as shit.
Yeah. Super comfy.
Super comfy.
Never break.
Never. I never once had a problem with that car mechanically. Like the vents oscillated.
Oh,
what? The crotch vent oscillated.
What?
It was the shit.
You get left and righty cooling?
Yeah. It had a fridge in the back that still worked. Yeah, champagne, because it was an ultra luxury model. So like it had a fridge, and then behind the fridge, if you kind of like pulled the fridge out, you could access it from the trunk, but it had a fire safe. So you can put like cool shit in there and lock it up. Yeah.
Are we talking like early 2000s or late 90s?
04, I think.
04?
Was. Yeah,
Okay.
04, 05. I don't really remember the year.
And because it's a Lexus, you can pick one up for like 10.
No, I picked that car up for $3,000. I bought it from a guy who bought it at an auction. Couldn't figure out why the check engine light was on, and it was because it had clogged cats. Yeah, so I just
test pipes. What?
No, I beat the shit out of the cats and got everything out of them, and then just put one of those O2 sensor sniffer deals in them.
Yeah.
So it turned the check engine light. I drove it out like that for I don't know a few months before it got totaled.
It got totaled?
Yeah, that's the car. I don't remember if I showed you the picture that I was shooting a Mustang. I won't be descriptive about it because I'm still really good friends with the guy, but we kind of both were like got too excited, like do a burnout. And I was like, do a rolling burnout and I'll take a picture of it. And we're shooting rollers and he kind of lost it and stuffed it into the car. We weren't going very fast, but
he lost it and Oh man.
Yeah, which I have pictures of it. It's kind of a cool picture.
Did the photos turn out good?
Oh yeah, they were okay. Like good as they can get from like realizing, oh, like this car's hitting me right now. I got a little banged up from that. It was fine. But yeah, that car was fantastic. I'm gonna buy another one day.
If you're not totaling your car shooting rollers, then are you even shooting rollers?
Yeah, but that was right around the time when I was just trying to do anything to make $1, you know? So like if somebody was like, I'll give you $20 to take a picture of this, I'm like, cool, make it 25. I'm in there. Like,
yep.
So Lexus was a great car. But if you need a good daily, buy a freaking Lexus, dude. They are fantastic cars. Because like you either end up with like an NA2J or like a 1UZ. You can't go wrong. You literally can't go wrong.
Boosted 2Js are cool too.
Boosted 2Js are cool. 1UZs are also cool.
I have not ever seen one of those in person.
Really?
I've seen people make like sand rails out of like the Lexus SUVs that have some version of a 1UZ.
Yeah.
And they'll turbo those.
The LX 450 or whatever.
Yeah.
Or the SC400 guys, they make turbo kits for those, and people are making like 700, like completely stock engine. Yeah.
It sounds so nasty.
They sound crazy. They make no horsepower. Actually, a friend of mine, Jay Caldwell, has one. It's an SC400 that like he found crashed. The car's been through several iterations now, but he's got like a 54 Chevy. I think it's a 54 Chevy body on it now, and it's just all patina and it's twin turbo and it shoots flames and he beats the shit out of it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
That would be so much fun.
Yeah, look that dude up on Instagram. You'll know who it is. You go, oh, that guy, because he's been on Hoonigan 95 times. Dude's a really cool guy.
Is he from here? Is he local?
To be honest with you, I don't know where he's from. I only know him from Hoonigan Barnyard.
Oh, okay.
From the couple years I covered that at SEMA.
Okay. That's something else that I totally forgot you did, is you did those SEMA trips too.
Yeah, we did SEMA trips. So I worked with a guy, his name's Jack Davis, who's
I know Jack.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Dude's a baller guy. He's got a drip car. He's an FD this year. So
the E46?
E36, yeah. 36, yeah. So I was his media guy for a long time. He's got a new one now, but yeah, we did that. And so I followed him around for his first 2 years at FD. SEMA, I think it was just FD and SEMA that we went to. I didn't go to any of the local events, so I was kind of busy doing other stuff. But yeah, this was actually this year I cut it off kind of like halfway through the year. I think it was round 2 or 3 maybe, when I was like, hey man, I can't continue to go to these. And it wasn't anything against him. It was just that like the program's so small right now, and I do photography for a business, and I can't afford to continue going to events for free, because like an FD event is 4 days, but it's really closer to like 8 or 12 days, depending on where it's at, because you have the travel time.
Travel and setup, prep,
right,
maintenance.
Right,
yeah.
Right. And so I was also doubling as like a crew chief and a mechanic and a photography guy. So
that sounds exhausting.
It was a great time though. Like I suggest, like, if you want to get into this industry, find a race team that needs a media guy and work for free. And it sounds stupid because, like, you know, nobody wants to work for free, but
I mean, I tell people that all the time. It's like, if you currently don't have paying clients and you're like, damn, I need to make money, work for free. It's actually, there's a term for it called spec work.
Yep.
And it's more or less a way of you, because it's free, you get to shoot on your terms. You say, hey, this is how we're doing it. Yeah. They don't have any input, and you just do your best work. Yeah. And being in media, you are your own advertiser. You know, it's like other companies have to hire a media guy to advertise. Every bit of work that you do, you post, and people see it. And so, I mean, I've been in that boat several times. Yep. I started a small program for the holidays this year for people who didn't make a ton of money in 23 who want to start off 2024 on a better foot, where they get a profile photo, a banner, some just photos to post, like candid shots and stuff like that, and a video for $250, which is like
cheap. Yeah.
It's probably $2,000 retail for that. And that's just, it's slow right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even look at it like that, but it's a way for me to help people too, because it's like, I know people aren't being greedy because these are people who maybe didn't make 50K this year.
Right.
And that's like the bare minimum you need to live these days.
Dude,
like
it's fucking so bad.
Yeah, it's really bad.
It's
so
rough.
yeah.
Shout out to living in Oklahoma out of all places. Like,
honestly, we have it so good here. Dude,
don't come here.
I can't believe it. Yeah, no, if you're from California or Florida, stay away.
Yeah. But so I worked with him. I worked on other race teams and other organizations as well for free for a long time. I gave a lot of stuff away.
Yeah.
Which I'm now seeing the fruits of that, which is really rewarding for me because I gave so much shit away for free forever. With no expectation. And that's the other thing that I try and tell people too, is like, give it with zero expectations. Like, here's this. I don't care if you post it. I don't care if you whatever, do what you want to with it. I don't really give a shit. But later down the line, like, you end up being the first person that comes to mind when certain opportunities arise.
Those connections are so important.
The connections are worth more than whatever you were going to charge for that photo. And not always, like, you're going to get burned. It happens. It's part of the process. Just, you got to trust it and kind of like have faith that probably 5 out of 7 dudes are going to be good dudes. And those 2 bad apples, you just can't dwell on the bad apples. You just
got to brush it off.
Yeah. You just got to roll the punches. So I worked with Jack, and that's where I got like all the SEMA stuff. It's the only reason I know anything or anybody in the drift scene of stuff and the kind of other motorsport, because I've been a drag racer my entire life. So I kind of know people in that avenue, but I don't know anybody in like drag race or in drifting. So
right. It's funny because I actually met Jack. Sort of my introduction to making any kind of money with media was actually shooting the full drift events here in Oklahoma. And in 2019, he was really big into those. He went to all of those, and I don't think he was licensed or anything. I don't think he was FD.
No, but that's how he won his FD license, was through.
Yeah, I think he won one of the,
I believe, one
of the tournaments. I think gets you like a guaranteed foothold in FD.
Yeah.
So
I don't know exactly how it works. Like I said, I'm not super involved in that aspect of motorsport, but I believe it was either full lock or
Lone Star.
Yeah, Lone Star, one of the two.
Yeah,
it might have been Lone Star because Aaron Losey kind of has his foot and everything. So it may have been Lone Star where he won his thing. It may have been like full lock got him into Lone Star and then got him into FD, but I really don't exactly know. It was just kind of by chance that him and I met. We met through a friend of mine named Adam, and Adam was like, "Hey, I have this photographer friend. He's never been to SEMA before. He just quit his job." And was like, "Can he go to SEMA with us?" Because SEMA was right after race week.
Yeah.
And Jack was like, "Yeah, sure. Come on." And so I went to SEMA with like $50 to my name, which don't do. It's Vegas isn't fun unless you can spend a little bit of money. But we shot that. We shot the burn yard, which I got some really cool contacts from the burn yard because the first burn yard was wild. Like the first burn yard I went to was wild. And I was able to get a lot of really cool photos, and I met a lot of really cool people through that that are just doing other stuff in the motorsports realm of stuff. Because again, I was a drag racer forever, so I know the drag racing side like the back of my hand. But anything else, I'm kind of like, who knows? But yeah, I met a lot of cool people going to SEMA in that aspect through Jack. So I worked for free for a lot with Jack, but there was some exchanges made. Like he brought me cool places. We did a lot of cool stuff. Like there's not a lot of guys their first year being a full-time photographer that shoot FD for an entire season. So
right.
It was a really cool opportunity. I'm very, 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 very fortunate that I are grateful that I got the opportunity. It just wasn't working anymore. It's not a problem.
I mean, there comes to a point where you kind of gotta adult, I guess. You gotta chase those contracts and figure out, how to pay bills with it. Yep. And that kind of took you to race week, sort of. You did race week. How did your first race week go?
My first race week went amazing. So I kind of had I didn't play it on purpose, but it kind of just got played that way. Like I quit my job to make it to race week. It's really, it's what happened. But it kind of got mixed into like, he quit his job just for race week, but it was really like, I quit my job and then I worked a little bit and then I went to race week.
Yeah.
Part of that story, like I don't want to get too far into it because I'm still friends with the guys at the shop, and it was kind of a dickish move on all ends. Like I was kind of a dick, they were kind of a dick. So that helped me a lot because they're like, oh, this guy's serious. Like he quit his job to be here. Like let's support him. So I made a ton of money. I didn't charge anybody anything. I just made it off of tips.
Wow.
And I probably made, I don't know, it wasn't very much money. It was probably like $1,200, but it was enough to pay for rent and the water bill and some other stuff. And so it was really.
Are we talking 12 net or 12 gross?
12 net. So I was.
That's great.
Yeah.
Because doing those costs a lot.
Yeah, they do cost a lot. Like you'll spend, like even us and just being media driving like a normal car, like we'll still spend like $3,000.
Yeah.
Especially if we stay in hotels. If we stay in hotels, it's really like $3,000 or $4,000. That's not even racing your car. So it does take quite a bit of money to do one of these things. I mean, it doesn't have to. You can camp, you can drive a slow car. Like don't let that number deter you from going because
you can cut corners, but you just have to balance that quality of life.
Exactly. Yeah. But that first year I went with my friend Jacob. So he kind of footed most of the costs and I was able to pay him back later for like the hotel rooms and stuff. And his dad like spotted us on a bunch of rooms. His dad had like a bajillion points on his credit card. So he's like, just go book the rooms. Like, I don't care about the money. Like,
nice.
Which was really cool because Jacob got to do race week. I got to do race week. It was kind of shitty because I just kind of left him. I was like, all right, well, thanks for bringing me here. Like, I'm going to just go take photos now. You can call me whenever you're ready.
I mean, that was your mission though, right? From the get go is like, I'm going to do media. This is what I'm here for.
Yeah. And again, shot everything on that 6D and edit everything on my phone.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That camera, dude.
Yeah. It was rough, man. Like, I don't know how many times I sent you stuff like, hey, can you sharpen this for me? Cause it just.
Only a couple of prints. Yeah. Cause it would just, if the autofocus on that is so slow and the processor so dated.
Yep.
When did it come out? Like 2012 or something?
Yeah. I bought it. I used my tax return to buy it, which is why I was so attached to it. Cause it was the first camera I actually bought. And it was like, $1,800 maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's for those that don't know, it's a portrait camera. It is meant for portraits.
Yeah.
So like stand there, look pretty, and we'll take a picture, not a 6-second pro mod doing a pass. So it was extremely difficult to do anything. And so my early photography days, there's a lot of motion in my photography, and it's for that reason. Like I never really did like traditional starting line stuff. I always was trying to pan or, shoot stuff from the back because it would focus really good from the back. Because the way drag racing works, when the car is coming towards you, it's moving at a much faster rate that your camera has to process that information much quicker. But from the back, it's a longer, I don't know how to describe it, but it's kind of slower, if you will. So like the slower cameras do better focusing from the back. So if you look at my early stuff, there's a lot of pictures from the back of cars. Yeah. And it was for that reason.
Which is weird because mathematically you'd think the focal plane would be changing the same either way because it's the same speed.
Well, it's easier for the camera to focus further away than it is for it to focus when stuff's coming at it. Right.
Oh, okay. So if you're already at a good distance,
correct,
and it's just getting further, yeah,
right. It's easier for it to track it going away than it is for it to come towards you.
That's true.
Which it was something I didn't know. Like I had no technical knowledge of that. I just went, okay, when I shoot from the front, it's really blurry, but when I shoot from the back, it's crystal clear. So I'm just gonna shoot from the back.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So or pan. I did a lot of pan stuff because it would pan really good because it was so slow.
Pans are what separate the men from the boys.
Yeah. I'm not good at them. Like you're really good at them. Our friend Richard's really good at them.
Richard's way better than me at it.
Dude, Richard's so good at it. But he
does a lot.
Does a lot of pan shots.
Yeah.
Derek's really good at them.
Derek is really, really good.
There's a few guys that are just super solid with them, and I'm just not one of them.
Yeah, I do okay. I think Richard and Derek pull it off better than me, though. I'm good at some stuff, but I'll take the L on pans.
Yeah, I hit them every once in a while. I'm like, yeah, but I don't know what I'm doing.
Shout out to my Sony A1 and that 30 FPS. That helps my pans turn out better for damn sure.
Yeah, but now I still don't have great equipment now. Like I I shot this entire season on a 5D4, which is an old camera.
Dude, that's crazy.
It's actually older than the 60 Mark II is.
Yeah.
But it's still with old industry standards. Like it's a way better camera than the 60 ever was.
5D4, although it's not current, that was like one of the best cameras on the market for the longest time.
Yep. I still tell people like if you're starting off, because you can pick them up for like $800 body only.
They're that cheap now?
Yeah. Some of the used ones are like on KEH.
Dude, I remember just a couple years ago, they were like $3,000.
Oh no.
Were they not? The 5D4?
Oh, they were 3 years ago. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm referring to now. No, they're not.
No.
I think I paid $1,200 for mine.
That's nuts.
Last year.
That's what I paid for my 60 Mark II in 19.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the 5D4 is like,
Oh, so much better camera.
you can't even compare the two.
No, like
Yeah.
it's still industry standard. Like
Yeah.
I shoot magazine covers on it all the time.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of other people that do. So like because I was in the restoration world, I got a little glimpse of like the hot rod side of magazine production. And I got to meet a lot of really cool people in that aspect, like John Jackson, Robert McGaffin, and those guys. But Robert McGaffin still shoots on a 5D4. I don't think he does now. I think he's got a Canon hookup. But when I knew him, he still shot on a 5D4.
That's crazy.
And that's all he does is magazine stuff and big, large print stuff. And, you know, so that was kind of when I was like looking, I'm still looking for a budget camera. And my uncle again helped me out on that deal. He's like, just pick one. I don't care what it is, you know, and I wasn't going to make him spend the money on like a big camera. So I was like, this is a fantastic option, you know?
I think my Roadcaster shit the bed before we were talking about your uncle previously, but
Oh yeah. So my uncle, Clayton, we call him Stumpy because he's kind of short and he's a stump. He's kind of like my big brother. He's the shit, dude. Like him and his wife, his wife's also the shit. I say to him because he's you know, my blood, but Stacy's just as much my blood. Like those guys are fantastic people, and they've helped us out throughout all of our, like through her and I's marriage. Like they've helped us out in so many ways. Like I can't say enough thanks to them. Like I wouldn't be able to do what I do now without those guys. Like they've covered rent for us. They've done so much shit.
what race week was it that you were having all the laptop problems?
All of them.
All of them? Well, there was one specifically where I remember there was like a lot of update posts about your laptop.
Yeah, that was last year. So it was late. No, I'm sorry. It was
that this year?
it was early this year. Dude, we did so much shit this year. It's insane.
We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah. So it was race week. Well, no, it wasn't race week 1.0. It was last year. I'm sorry. It was 2.0 last year when I was having all the trouble.
Okay.
And I had to keep updating people because I work for a ton of people on a race week, and I just had to be like, sorry guys, like I couldn't export 10 photos at a time and it would just crash. Like Lightroom would crash, the computer would freeze, it would overheat. It was just a shit sandwich. And it was just bad news. And after a few months of me struggle busing, my uncle was like, hey, I don't care what it costs, just get what you need because we want to see you like succeed in this deal. So just, we don't give a shit what it is. I'm like, dude, it's like $7,000. He's like, I don't care. Just buy it. Here's my credit. Like, buy it. And so they bought me a new 22 MacBook Pro, and it was fantastic. It is ridiculous. That M2 chip is
Oh, I bet.
oh, chef's kiss.
To have that kind of support, though, I mean, that's got to feel so good to have somebody out there who doesn't even care about the dollar value. They just want to see you succeed.
Exactly.
And the fact that you have such a big community backing you for what you do at these events too, and you know how all that kind of just trickles down. How your uncle just trying to help you out positively impacted maybe hundreds of people.
Oh, definitely hundreds of people, and a few businesses as well that I do work with. And you know, the thing is, like, I grew up in a really unfortunate, like I got a bad setup, like a bad hand, and I had every reason to be a statistic, you know. And the shit sandwich part of it is like my family's really close, but they didn't understand. Like it was partly embarrassment, it was probably other stuff also, but they never knew anything. Now that I'm an adult, like I let them in on like the kind of hell that we grew up in. But they really had no clue. You know, they had bits and pieces, like when they had to pick us up from places that we shouldn't have been in, or you know, pick us up from Child Haven, or, you know, when we were in the foster houses, whatever. Like they were there for that, but they didn't fully understand what was going on. And even until like my early adult years, like we were struggling. Like I mentioned earlier, like I slept in my truck, and, you know, we just didn't let them in. They had no idea. And so I had a problem with allowing people to help me with stuff. And so in my head, I would much rather sleep with the lights off and no heat in the house than call them and ask for $500 or whatever.
Yeah.
And to him, he's like, I'd rather spend $500, make sure your house is warm. Like, I don't care. I have the money. Like, let me help you.
Yeah.
And so it was really hard for me to ask him for that kind of stuff because I've just had to do it all on my own. I didn't have to, but I felt like I had to.
Right.
And so it's really relieving for me now, being more mature than I ever was, to be like, okay, I do have people. Because I grew up my whole life thinking like, I don't have shit. Like, I don't have anybody to help me. I don't have, whatever. And I did. Like, my grandparents are beautiful people. They've helped me so much. Like, my grandma is part of the only reasons why, I didn't eat a bullet a long time ago. Like, it's a very dark road, but there was light at the end of the tunnel. I just couldn't see it until I grew up a little bit. But I felt like I had nobody to count on or to trust with feelings or anything. And now knowing that they've been there the entire time, like it feels good to know that like they were just a phone call away, even though like I didn't take advantage of it. It's really relieving to know that they would have done this years ago if I had asked. And it's really relieving to know that like they're willing to do it now with absolutely zero strings attached, which is a ridiculous thing for somebody to do for another person.
I think that kind of just comes with the territory of like the way you grew up and the environment you were in. You weren't trusting, you kept to yourself. When you're in that kind of environment, it's really hard to reach out. And I kind of was in a similar situation after my divorce.
Yeah.
I didn't have anything and I had just been put through hell, and I barely had money left over after my paycheck while I was paying child support. And yeah, it's just, you feel like you have nothing and you can't reach out. You don't want to burden anyone else with your problems.
Yep.
And now, that you're in a better place, it's easier to trust. It's easier to reach out, and it feels so much better.
Yeah. And I've grown a lot. Like, my wife helps me like so much. She was really hard on me to be like, hey, we're going to go to therapy. Like, I don't care. Or like, for one, we're going to marriage therapy, but also like, you have to go. Like, there's still stuff that we'll just be chatting about, and then I'll be like, it'll bring up a memory, because I blocked a ton of it out. So like, I'm realizing now, I'm learning a lot more about like the condition that I have, which is the toxic stress deal. And the short way to put it is like my entire life I've had these spikes of stress. So my body's gone to fight or flight so many times that now my baseline is much higher than everybody else. So I block everything out. Like, that's why I'm not good at dates. That's why I don't remember dates and previous things. Like, I have a backlog of everything that's happened, and every once in a while it'll come up. But I didn't realize that I had to work through that stuff. I thought I could just ignore it forever,
Yeah.
And you can't. You have to work through it. And there was also like I grew up in the era of like, if you're a dude, you don't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't.
100%.
It's not your place. Like,
especially our military background is not helping that any.
And the thing is too, is like, if you look at the years that I was in the military is when the suicide rate started going way up. So like, so many of my friends died of suicide.
Mm-hmm.
So many of them. I've witnessed some pretty terrible suicides in my units. I've opened doors to people in bathtubs, and it's just like, there's some shitty, dark stuff that happens, and it's not just because like, there's other contributing factors, but we grew up on the tail end of our dads being like, you just don't talk about shit. You're just a dude. You go to work, you go home. If you have a shit sandwich, like, you just eat it. It is what it is.
Yep.
And so, that being around us all the time kind of like opened, at least opened my eyes to being like, okay, I've gone down this road before. Like, I tried to ice myself a while ago when I was 14. I failed, thank God. But like, I know how that shit sandwich eats. And I was very fortunate that I had the guidance from my wife to be like, hey, you have to go. Like, it's not an option. You're going. Like, okay. And our therapist is a really cool person. She's not a traditional therapist. She's like a cool person that's like, just say it, just whatever. I don't give a fuck. Like, she'll tell you straight too, like, no, that's wrong. Like, you fucked up. Or she'll be like, no, you're right in the right.
That's funny. So I've actually been going for 3 years as well. I started going because I felt like one of my exes was gaslighting me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started going to therapy because I'm like, am I crazy, or is she just playing games.
Right.
And after 3 years, that actually turned into a diagnosis of, I found out I have actual full-blown OCD. And it's not like everyone thinks OCD is like, oh, you have to wash your hands 10 times. It's like, no, it's terrible intrusive thoughts all the times. And you have it as well?
No. I've read up a lot about it. So I tried to figure out what the fuck was wrong with me before I got help.
Yeah.
And so I've done a ton of reading and talking with people that have your same condition and other conditions like it.
It's wild, man. I just thought this shit was normal. My therapist is like, no, we need to fix this. It'll never go away, but you can make it a lot easier to deal with. And I'm like, cool.
Yeah, let's do this. How are you doing with that? You doing good?
Yeah, mostly.
Good.
It's not too bad. It's like anything, you know. Sometimes things will make it really bad, and I'll just have a day where I just struggle with shit. I kind of just need to dissociate and go, do whatever by myself. And some days I feel completely fine, like there's nothing even going on. So it's, apparently antidepressants are kind of like the cheat code to beat it.
Really?
But I'm a really firm believer in not taking medication for stuff unless it's life or death, because I just feel like putting chemicals in your body long term is just going to mess some shit up.
Yeah.
And it's like, I already have RA and lupus too. So I've got enough things wrong with me. I don't need to shorten my lifespan any more than it already is.
Yep.
So,
I definitely understand that aspect. I have a lot of the same feelings towards it, especially when like I have a few things, right? So like the ADD, ADHD, dyslexia, a few other things like super anxiety ridden, depression, the whole deal. And like when I was on antidepressant, when I was on Ritalin, I needed an antidepressant for the Ritalin.
Oh.
Right? So now I'm on an antidepressant. Well, now I don't want to eat, so now I have to have water pills because I won't eat or drink. And now I'm on water pills, and then I have to have another pill for that side effect.
It's just a snowball, treating side effects.
And I ended up having like 8 or 9 pills I took every single day.
Yeah.
And that was right around the time where I was doing stupid stuff and trying to, end it all for no reason.
Yeah.
Over something that really wasn't that big of a deal. So I definitely understand the avenue of not wanting to take all of that. I do some earthly solutions now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I went down that rabbit hole too, and that bit me in the ass too. It's me and the electric lettuce do not jive. We are not. It turns me into a very unproductive person.
Yeah, same.
It was a lot of 3 a.m. sitcom binge eating type situations, and I was like, damn, I need to get a job or something. That was like right before I started my business. That was right after I got out of the military.
Yep.
So the stress of the military actually got my RA so bad where it like hurt to walk.
Yeah, oh, really?
And I had a number of surgeries in 2018, so I wasn't totally recovered either.
Yeah.
So that was kind of just like, hey, I can buy this stuff. It's cheap and it masks all of my symptoms. It's great. Yeah. And then I woke up one morning and looked in the mirror and I was like, I really have not done shit but smoke for 4 months. Like, oh my God, I'm one of those. Like, I can't be one of those pajama pants all day type dudes. I need to go do something. Yeah,
I definitely went down that rabbit hole also where I used too much. I'm actually on the tail end of that right now of like this entire last year. I was a big pothead, did a bunch of mushrooms, that kind of stuff. And it was just like, it's like a blanket, you know, it makes you feel warm and fuzzy, but you're in a blanket, like you're just chilling. And now I really only use like the marijuana stuff if I can't sleep, because I don't sleep if I'm getting better at it now. Like if I go through a full day and like I read before I go to bed, like.
Do you exercise at all?
I do now. I didn't before.
Just going to the gym, like even if you don't do a lot, game changer. Yeah. Make you feel like a new person.
Yeah. Well, like late last year, I was like 233. So I was a bigger boy than I am now. Like I'm 190 right now. So
cool. Okay.
And part of that was the weed and like eating way too much.
Yeah.
And also stress. Like, dude, when I was working that hot rod shop job, like that was really when I started gaining all the weight. Like for lunch, because I was using food as a method to feel.
It just feels good.
It feels good to eat good food, right?
Tasty, yeah.
Fucking milkshakes and shit.
Yes.
So like I would, for lunch, for example, I would either get 2 $5 boxes from Taco Bell and eat both of them, drinks and all.
Dude, that's like 2,000 calories.
Oh, it's a lot, right? Cokes, the whole deal. or I would go to Little Caesars and I would get a large pizza and a 2-liter. Smash a large pizza and crazy sticks by myself and probably finish about half the 2-liter in my lunch hour. Right. And then on the way home, every day on the way home, I would stop at the Sonic on the way home and I would get a mini Reese's Blast. I got a little one because I was watching my calories. A mini Reese's Blast, a small root beer with no ice, because I would mix the two together because I'm a gross sack of shit. But mix the two together, and an order of either cheddar peppers or mozzarella sticks every single day.
I don't know how you're alive.
And then at the time, like, we were both feeling the same way about a lot of things. Like, we were using food as kind of a scapegoat. And so, like, our dinner, and we were also broke as shit too. So, like, it made more sense to spend $10 at Taco Bell than $10 at anywhere else to get a fucking decent meal.
Yeah.
And so then I would go home and eat more fucking Taco Bell. Like, we would get $5 boxes and eat there.
That's the crux with just not being in a good place and fast food. They go hand in hand because you're stressed, you're tired. You don't want to fuck with the effort of making a decent meal, even though it might cost the same. You have to go to the store, get the ingredients, cook it.
Yeah.
It just takes effort and resources to pull that off. Whereas when you're stressed and you're just dissociating, you just go, you get your garbage from the place and you go home and eat. You don't think about what's in it or how many calories it is or how it affects you.
Or all the sugar
that's
in, like, that's the thing they don't tell you. In Taco Bell, like,
tons,
so much sugar.
buckets of it
in your
in the
chalupa.
burritos and stuff. Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And that was also a mental battle also, because I was like, okay, well, the food makes me feel good, but now I'm a fat piece of shit. That's how
But
I
the
felt.
food only makes you feel good for like the first 10 or 15 minutes.
Oh, dude, yeah. And then you got up and you're like, oh god, ugh.
Yeah. This is regret. If I ate anything like fast food too close to bedtime, I would legitimately feel like I had a hangover the next day.
Yeah, it's
I
ridiculous,
felt groggy and gross. And,
Disgusting.
Yeah.
And the thing is too, is like, I was never a big guy. Like, when I joined the Army, I had to put lead weights in my pockets to get through MEPS. And I told the guy too, I was like, man, I got weights in my pockets, like, whatever. I went to fat camp when I was in basic training.
Yeah, me too.
Which, fat camp, for people that don't know, is if you're overweight or underweight, it's essentially just extra workout and either less food or more food. So I ate 6 times a day when I was in the Army.
So I was a red belt, which means my run time was absolutely just comically bad.
Yeah.
So I had to do extra PT to get back in. Like, if you're a yellow or a green belt, that's like where you're supposed to be for your run time. So I had to do remedial PT because I was fat.
Yeah, I had the opposite. So, like, a typical morning for me in basic training was like, I got up at 4 when everybody else got up at 5, because my first fat camp workout was at 5. And so you worked out, which we were the only people that had access to weights. So we were in a weight room. We did whatever workout it was, and then we would eat breakfast. And then we would go work out with the company, which is generally like a company run or
calisthenics.
Correct. Yeah. Which they don't touch weights, right? Basic training.
All body weight.
All body weight. And then you would eat breakfast with the company. Okay. And then right before lunch, an hour before lunch, I would get another workout in, and then I would eat a 6-ounce chicken breast and 2 cups of rice. And I think it was,
there's some veggie in there.
Yeah. It was like broccoli or green beans or whatever. And then, work out with the company, because you got to earn your food, right? So you got to get on the pull-up bar to earn your food, and then you eat lunch with the company. So I was eating 2 meals there, and then at dinner time I was eating another meal before I was working out, eating another meal, and then at the evening time our company worked out. So then we would work out again in the evening, because you got to earn your food again, and then before bed they would give us a protein bar every day.
That's insane.
For 10 weeks or 11 weeks.
You probably came out of basic looking like Sam Sulik.
I went in at 118 pounds and I came out at 168.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
And none of that is fat.
None of it. I was jacked.
It's like, hell yeah, I was.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, AIT, we just kind of kept it up. So I bulked up in AIT. I got up to like 180, I think. Like 180.
And that was probably all fat.
Yep.
Because
like we, for one, I wasn't working out as much because I was in school learning my job.
Oh, dude, they the reins are so loose and
so loose.
Yeah.
And where I was in Augusta, I was at Fort Gordon, and like Domino's would deliver to the barracks.
Oh no.
Oh yeah.
Oh no.
Oh yeah.
That's not good.
So like, yeah, we gained some weight there, but I was still in the gym. Like my buddies and we would go to the gym, and that's when I started like supplementing myself with like protein powder and creatine, et cetera, et cetera. So I got bigger, but I also got a little chunky. And then when I got out and joined the IT job, the first couple months were great. And then when I started getting depressed and like hated my job, started gaining a little weight. And then by the time I was in the hot rod shop, I was fucked. Like I started the hot rod shop at 200 pounds, which from a guy who had a frame of 118 pounds, literally maybe 2-3 years ago, to being 200 pounds, like it's that's a big substantial difference. And then to go from 200 to 230, the fattest I ever got was 233.
Yep.
And that jump, that 33 pounds, like it's noticeable.
Yeah.
So,
I feel your pain. When I was deployed, I took that opportunity to cut as hard as I possibly could. And I was in the gym for 2 hours every night and I flourished. That was like the healthiest I've ever been. And I left there at 195. My healthy weight is right around the 200 mark.
Yep.
When I got out of the military, I was 280.
Ooh, big boy.
That's like new pants, new belts.
Yep.
Like,
yeah, I was a 30 waist, 31 waist when I got an AIT. And by the time I quit the hot rod shop, I was like a 38 waist.
I went from a 33 or 34 to a 40.
It's a big difference.
Yeah.
It's a big difference. But now you're looking now though. You've been in the gym. You've been getting it.
Yes and no. So like, so a little bit of a story there. I was doing great when I was single. I held myself accountable. I love going to the gym. That was like my favorite thing. Right. I'm a big numbers guy, so it's like, yeah, maybe. When I'm lifting, and then when that weight gets easy and I move up in numbers, that's my high. That's what I chase, is moving those numbers up. And so then got comfortable, got in a relationship.
Yep.
Trying to figure out my new day to day, and it was just hard to make time for the relationship. So I quit going to the gym for almost a year, and then about 2 months ago, I was just like, wow, look at me. What the fuck? No.
Yeah.
So I was, I sat down with my girlfriend, we had a conversation, and okay, how can I make this work? Because I cannot just not go.
Right.
Like, this has to be a part of my life. If I don't lift, even if my diet, I can cut my food back, whatever, I just get fat if I don't go to the gym. I don't know what it is about me. Like, even if I starve myself, I'm still fat. Yeah. So I figured it out, got it worked into my schedule, and I've been going for 4 or 6 weeks now. So I'm still kind of acclimating a little bit, but I feel better.
Good. Yeah.
I feel better.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And same. Like, I don't go to the gym per se because I'm so run and gun. So I do a lot of like push-up, sit-ups.
Yeah, just get it in wherever you can.
It's really that simple. Like, you could do 10 push-ups an hour and end up with 120 push-ups a day. Yeah. And that's a lot of push-ups.
Yeah.
Same with squats, same with whatever. And to transition kind of like to current day, like I never bought a scooter. So if you go to a drag race, you'll see people in scooters everywhere, right?
Yeah, those electric bikes.
Yeah, electric scooters. I never bought one because I was fat and I wanted to walk it off. And so I walked and ran everywhere. Like, there's videos of me on 1320 everywhere, literally running everywhere across the track. Like,
I've seen it firsthand.
Yeah, you've seen it.
Yeah, at Thunder Valley. Yeah. See pits track.
Running. Yep. Everywhere I went. And that's just kind of like getting it in where I can. It's a really easy way to do it. Now I'm to the point where like I need the time. Like, I need to save the time so the scooter makes sense. But and I also have the forefront of thought, and I'm more grown up now to be like, okay, well, if you want to work out, you got to get up earlier. You just got to get it in where you can. It's
hard to work that into business. Business is like, you need to focus on just making it happen and not how can I incorporate exercise.
Yeah. And for me, it's just like, if I think about it, I do it. Like, if I'm like, oh, I have some time, I'm just going to do some push-ups. Yeah. Like, if you see me at a track and I'm just doing push-ups, like, just know I'm just getting it in where I can. Yeah. In between rounds, in between whatever.
It's so hard when you're traveling and working events like that. I don't know how anyone stays in shape doing it, because it's just the level of accountability required to actually like do that. Yeah. It's so much harder. Yeah. Because if you're in a routine, you just know, oh yeah, I get up at 6 and I go easy. Yeah. But if your day to day looks totally different, if you don't know how much sleep you're going to get or where you're going to be.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
It's just getting it in where you can. And the sleep thing is something that I'm going to work towards this year, really like trying to focus on, because like I mentioned earlier, I don't really sleep to begin with. And that's due to some of the previous stressors that I've had. Like, my entire life, I've never slept really good. Because from when I was a child, like, parents were fighting, really crazy shit was happening, whatever. So I just never slept as a kid, and then it just translates to now. Like, I don't, which is where the weed came in, and like the weed helped me sleep, but then I wouldn't wake up. Yeah. It's so hard to wake up. Yeah. And so now I only really use it if I'm in bed and it's like 3 a.m, I'm like, okay, I have to, like, I need to sleep. Yeah. Like, it's more important to me to sleep and wake up groggy than it is to not sleep at all. Right. But yeah, dude, it's wild.
So getting back on track.
Sorry, that
went way off.
You can't just let me loose like that.
I mean, it's good stuff to cover, like, how many people really know this side of you?
Not a whole lot. I keep it pretty tight knit. Like, I let some people in, but
But there's so many people out there who might have dealt with the same stuff that we have, and you know, maybe they're feeling like they're the only one who goes through this, and they don't realize how many other people out there.
No, that's one thing I've learned, and I tell all my my people also, is you're not alone. Like, there's definitely a person that feels exactly the way you feel about stuff. We actually had a friend of ours leave one of our group chats because he felt like a certain way about stuff, which is exactly how I felt about it. And I messaged him, was like, hey man, like, just know I'm here for you, whatever. Like, I understand where you're feeling. I feel a lot of the same ways. And he goes, dude, I had no idea. I'm like, well, yeah, I don't want to mention it in the group chat because I don't want to bum everybody out like you did, you fucking asshole. No, I'm just kidding. But you know, there's always somebody out there, and there's always another door to be open. So like, don't
100%.
Don't fucking off yourself over some stupid shit.
Yeah. Or just at all.
Yeah. Or
even if it's serious stuff.
Yeah. Don't. Yeah. Sorry. That was
Chris over here promoting.
Yeah.
suicide.
No.
It's fine as long as you have a good reason. That's the catch-22. There is no good reason.
Nobody I knew that done it, and I've known a lot of people that have done it, never had a good reason.
No.
It was always something that everybody would love to have helped them with.
It's always a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Absolutely. There's no problem you can't solve.
Right. So your first drag week, was that race week in 21?
It was race week 2020, race week 2.0, the one
2020.
I quit my job for. Yep. That was the first time I've ever been to a race week. I watched it for years on 1320 and I was like, I need to go to one. I wanted to race in one really bad. And I kind of realized I couldn't afford to race them. And so I was like, well, be an asset to the community then. Like, let's go this route. But yeah, it was 2020.
So you got huge, resounding support from that.
Yep.
Albeit, you know, the circumstances, you were kind of like the hero that quit his job to show up.
I was, yeah. I definitely had a leg up in that aspect, yeah.
So was it the support initially from that event that led you to pursue more of them? You're like, hey, this is awesome. This feels great. I'm going to do another one.
Yes and no. So like I said, I kind of jumped ship, with no experience, no nothing. So I kind of had to sink or swim a little bit, but the resounding, support from the community made it feel possible. Like I was unsure when I went to race week, and after race week, I was like, okay, this is a real thing that can happen. Now I just got to figure out how to make it happen, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah, no, that was a wild time. Just the overwhelming support really made it feel possible.
So after that first one, how did you continue to find success in other drag and drive events or other race weeks?
So I was really fortunate. Like the timing is the universe's timing, or God's timing, however you want to put it, is ridiculous, right?
It can be, yeah.
Right. So, you know, I believe it's God's timing. So God's timing is fantastic. So I quit my job September of 2020, right? February of 2021 was the first sick week.
Oh, perfect.
So I only had to.
I remember that. We talked about that because I almost shot that.
You almost did. You should have came, but whatever.
The rules, the stipulations.
Yeah. No,
kind of gave me the ick a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and for a lot of people also, but, oh yeah, that was, I remember now. Yeah.
And they want all my stuff for free.
Yep. And then, yeah, which, you know, I obliged and I got a pretty cool opportunity out of it. But anyway, so I only had to figure out how to make enough to live between October and January, because February I knew I was going to make some money. So I got some good advice from a friend of mine, Cole Reynolds. He was like, dude, sell photo packages.
Yeah.
What the fuck are photo packages? How do you do that? And he's like, just.
And is this in general, like locally, or is this at these events?
It was in the context of at these events. I tried to do it locally, and I got a little bit of support early on, but now I get zero support at home, which is ridiculous. We can get into that a little bit later, but so I offered photo packages for Sick Week. Well, since Sick Week was brand new, a bunch of race weekers went to Sick Week, and so people knew me as the guy that quit his job to go to race week, and so again, I kind of had a leg up because they liked the story. They wanted to support the small guy that was trying to do his thing. And so
they literally liked the story.
Literally. Yeah, there you go. And we sold a ridiculous amount of photo packages for that event. And we really found some really great success in that. And that's kind of what kicked it all off for that deal. And then like I said, so last year, which it would have been the 21 season, I did the FD stuff with Jack because I had done SEMA with him in 2020. And so I knew I had FD, which was 4 weeks, which I knew I was going to be working for free, but hopefully make some contacts out of. So it was like Sick Week.
Not working for free. Spec work.
Right. Yeah. So I had sick week in February, which was cool for us. I've never been to Florida. So it was the first time like going to Florida. It was my wife's first time seeing the beach.
So you two just went in. Did you have a truck at the time?
No, I had so that Lexus that got totaled that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
I had a rental car. It was like some Toyota.
Oh, okay. So you were like in between. This is right after that happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had a week and a half left on my rental before they had to like take it back.
Yeah.
Which they still hadn't paid me out for the car. It was a whole shit sandwich. But so we took that car to sick week, and which was very fortunate for us because it was like a car that got 40 miles to the gallon.
Oh, perfect. Dude. Perfect.
It's the only way I was going to be able to afford it. Again, God's timing is hilarious, right? And so we spent all of our money getting there. The cool part about sick week was the overwhelming support from the people.
Mm-hmm.
But that sick week also was like one of my first like real magazine features, because I had one previously, but it was like some fucking brochure and it wasn't really a magazine.
Mm-hmm.
And so they used some of my photos from sick week in the magazine, because the stip was they were going to give you a media pass, but you had to give them 100 photos or whatever, which if you don't know anything, that's like thousands of dollars worth of free shit.
Can be. Yeah.
Yeah. Depending on, your standing in the community, et cetera. But for me, it was worth it to make the contacts and go to the event. And so
that ended up being like an investment for you.
It was, yeah. And it was an investment at the right time also. And then, so I don't remember what was after that. I would have to look, but there was another small drag and drive after that. And that was right around when Jared Holt was doing the King of the Open Road stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I went to the King of the Open Road, Oklahoma. It was just when Oklahoma was doing it. It was I think it was 21. So I just kept finding these small events, and I would be like, hey, I'm selling photo packages. Like, I explain the photo packages to people, and I would get enough to like pay to get there and get back. Mm-hmm. And would hope that people would send me some tip money with the free to download album after. But after sick week, I started hitting up people on Instagram that I was like, you have a cool thing, and you're in this area, right? So like, let's hook up and do something. So one of the guys that I met was Trevor Evans, has that tan C10, the one that we did the massive rolling burnout on with the Nova on the back of the trailer. I don't know if you remember that video.
Maybe. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. It went kind of viral. It was like, 3 million views on Instagram.
Oh, yeah,
like something like
that's viral for sure.
14 million on TikTok or whatever. But so I hit him up on Instagram, not expecting anything, and was like, hey man, I love your truck. I want to shoot it. I don't want anything in return. You don't have to post them. I don't give a shit what you do with them. Like, I just want to shoot the truck. I want to meet you. You seem like a cool dude. And he was like, yeah, absolutely. Come here and we'll shoot the truck or whatever. And then, we'll take you to dinner and, thanks for coming or whatever. So we went there. I shot his truck. We did the first shoot I did of his truck was absolute dog shit. I don't know why he still likes the photos, but
probably sentimental. It's a cool story.
Cool story, right? We did a rolling burnout picture, but this was right after my car got totaled by doing a rolling burnout, and I was in a rental car.
Oh,
yeah. So I was like,
brave.
Granted, Trevor, that's all he does in that truck. So we went for a ride. I think we went to lunch or something, and like the entire ride, like he was just doing burnouts everywhere. Like,
also, not a Mustang.
Not a Mustang.
That's where you went wrong.
Yeah. You can trust a dude with a square body C10 that he knows how to do a burnout.
Yeah.
Right? But that's what he built the truck for. And he was really comfortable in the truck, and he was very understanding that I was just like, hey man, this just happened. Mm-hmm. If it goes any sort of way, please, for the love of God, don't be a hero. We can always reshoot it. And he was such a really nice guy about it, really cool about it. He overpaid me that shoot. I was only going to charge him like $100 maybe, and he gave me $500, which was like
nice,
awesome for us because we didn't have shit. Right?
Yeah, I mean that's just a lot for a shoot.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is he gave me $500 for the shoot, and I got sick with like.
Oh, I'm paranoid now. I'm just making these lights, making sure the lights are on.
Oh, you're good. I got super sick with salmonella right after sick week. So the place that he told us to go to is this barbecue place, and I got like a pulled pork sandwich, and like. Got salmonella to the point where I almost like kicked the bucket. Like it was bad. I don't remember my wife took me to the hospital. I don't remember getting there. I remember going downstairs. I don't remember any of it. And so it was funny that like he gave me that little bump, because that was the bump that we needed to pay for the hotel room for me to get not sick enough to make the 15-hour drive home or whatever it was.
Man.
But she drove the entire way by herself. I was passed out, like dead asleep. But yeah, I got salmonella really bad. I ended up going to the hospital. I was ridiculously dehydrated. I think I took 2.5 liters of fluid, which if you know anything about IVs, that's a lot.
Yeah.
2.5 liters of fluid, which that was a whole shit sandwich also because I don't have insurance because I haven't been able to afford it yet. And so
Insurance is a scam anyways.
it is a scam until you get a $5,000 bill for a fucking IV. And then you're like, maybe it's not so much of a scam. Yeah. So the hospital charged me $5,000. It was like $5,500 because they charged me for a bunch of shit I didn't get also. Like they charged me for a room where I was in a hospital or when I was in the hallway because this was COVID times, right? Everybody was in the fucking hospital. And so I was on a bed in the hallway, but they charged me for a room and like this kind of shit. And they charged me for like an overnight stay and I was there for maybe 6 hours. But anyway, so like it was, again, God's timing is hilarious because I needed that $500 to pay for the hotel room just for me to get not sick enough. Because I was, every time, if I was not asleep, I was throwing up or shitting myself. Like it was to the point like where I was in the shower vomiting and like diarrheaing at the same time.
Oh.
And just like rinsing it off with the shower because it was just like,
Oh.
if
You can't stop it. You
yeah,
can't
I
do
can't
anything.
stop.
Just
Yeah,
gotta wait.
It was all water anyways. It didn't really matter. Sorry to be TMI gross or whatever, but
I mean,
salmonella
that's life,
sucks.
dude. Sometimes life is gross.
Yeah. So that was the start of the 21 season. Was like a really cool sick week. Got to go to Florida. It was a really good time.
And then a really bad sick week.
really bad sick week. Sick on sick week. And the people from sick week came through. Like a bunch of them bought prints. That was when I was doing. I think no, it was 22 when we started doing prints together. But a bunch of people bought photos, and like I was when I started to realize that people wanted like copyright release for stuff, and like I should charge more for copyright release, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And then the next big event was Race Week 1.0, which is the first 1.0 I did, which was a blast. The Race Week people again came through. And during this time, my friends started a race shop in Tulsa. And I wasn't making enough money to really supplement myself otherwise. This actually started before sick week, but it really picked up halfway through that. And so I got another part-time job working at a shop, which those guys paid me really good. And I did a bunch of stuff for them. And then I kind of got super not into the business. I wasn't stoked to be doing that. I would much rather be taking pictures, but it was paying the bills because this was right around the time where the dog training business kind of really started to slow down and we just weren't making enough to like make ends meet. And so I worked at that shop part-time is full-time. And then just, I kind of had the liberty to go do whatever, whenever. I just had to give them enough notice to where, yeah, I couldn't just be like, hey, the day of I'm leaving for 2 weeks.
Yeah. I just had to plan for it a little bit.
Yeah. So, very fortunate for that because they gave me an opportunity to kind of save up a little bit so I can go to some events that I knew I wasn't going to make money at. And so the other half of that year I spent traveling and I did my, I call it like my tour, if you will. So in August, again, the racing community in August, there's nothing that happens in August unless you go super far north, like Montana, because it's just too hot.
Yeah.
So at drag strips, like it's just as important. This is drag racing only. There's other racing that happens in August. But if the track is too hot, it's just as dangerous as the track is too cold. It's the same amount.
It gets greasy.
Right.
And
It's literally more slick than it is when it's cold. And so August, there's hardly anything that happens in racing season. And so I drove that same slammed OBS truck we mentioned earlier. My little brother and I drove it to Florida and just shot people's cars from Florida all the way back to Tulsa. And I like mapped it out and I was like, if you have a car in this area, photo shoots with this, like, let's get together and do that. So I met a bunch of cool people that like, again, because I'd done the race weeks and the sick weeks or whatever, like a bunch of the racers knew who I was. And so they're like, hey, let's do a curated photo shoot. And I was doing light painting at the time. I was really into that. And so I was like light painting cars and we did 5 or 6 photo shoots. I actually went to Atlanta to meet with we won't mention his name, but a YouTuber that lives down there and his guy that we'll just say changes the color of cars. And I got ghosted by them. It was the only reason I went to Atlanta and I got ghosted by that guy.
Oh
yeah. That was a rough one. Cause the only reason I went to Atlanta was for that.
Yeah.
Because it was a cool opportunity to maybe make some contacts. And then I hit up Sean Madden, who's also a YouTuber, and was like, hey, man, I want to shoot your vet. I don't want anything of it. You don't have to pay me. You don't have to anything. Like, I just want to shoot it. I think it'll be a cool idea. He was my one guy. Well, these guys were my other guys that my freebies that I just wanted to make the contact of. But Sean was also another one of those guys that I just wanted the contact. Like, I just wanted to meet the guy. I wanted to shoot his car. And so I sent him some of my work, and I sent him like, kind of like what I wanted. I told him I wanted nothing from it. I don't want you to post them. I don't care if you post them. I don't give a shit what you do with them. I just want to shoot it and meet you and have a good time. And so we made the trip to Louisiana where he lives, and we shot his car. And it's funny, I did that for nothing, right? He let me sleep on his couch. Like, again, really trusting guy for letting a complete stranger that I just hit you up on Instagram and was like, here, can I shoot your car? Which now, like, I do a bunch of work with him. Like, I edit his YouTube videos, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, that trip kind of led to that door opening later in life, but we did the tour. We were doing, FD, which FD was going like a shitstorm. Like, Jack's car was not participating. Yeah, we didn't qualify, I think 3 out of the 4 races.
Oh no.
Yeah, we just had so many car problems. A brand new car, brand new supercharger system, and like it just wasn't it. It just wasn't it. And we kept breaking belts, and if it wasn't breaking belts, we had a tune problem that the tuner just wouldn't fucking fix. And it was a shit sandwich. Like, it was a bad time. And so FD wasn't going good. We weren't podiuming, and I was kind of banking on FD going good because Jack's a fucking fantastic driver.
Oh, he is.
He's so good.
He stood out. Like, when I saw him drive in the full lock events, I was like, that guy has a lot of experience.
Yeah, he's a really talented driver. It was just kind of like, could we give him a car to drive? And we just couldn't give him a car to drive that year. And so we never got any recognition because we never did anything.
Yeah.
Right. So I was bummed out for that. There were some other small events that happened. I think the circuit, the first year or the second year of the circuit was that year. And I went and shot that for Michael Narks. It was a good time. But anyways, so like the 21 season was rough. I was working a part-time job that was mostly full-time. Just kind of going to whatever I could, trying to open any doors that I could in any sort of avenue that, if there was a creak in the door, I was trying to bust it wide open.
Right. Yeah.
Just trying to get my foot in the door anywhere at this point. And just everything was just kind of not working. Like every door that I was trying to open shut right in my face. And I got approached by Race Week, and I gave them an offer that was fair, but it just was so far out of their budget that they didn't even come back with a counter offer. And
the actual Race Week organization?
Correct.
Okay.
And so like kind of closed that door in my face by accident because I just wasn't reading the room right. And just like nothing was working.
Well, sometimes it's just like that, like people don't understand what it takes to make media happen.
Oh yeah. No.
I don't know why a lot of people have this impression that it's a super cheap, like very affordable entry-level thing to accomplish for a business when really it's not.
No. And the way that I do things also is like that free to download album comes up every morning. So they wanted 80 to 100 photos every morning. Right. And so like, I'm like, okay, well, if I break it down per photo, you're paying about $700 a day, right? Because even if I charge you $10 a photo or $9 a photo or $7 a photo, if I do $7 a photo on 100 photos a day, it's $700 a day.
Yeah. And I charge 10 for events. Right. Like that's my standard pricing, $10 a photo.
Right. Yeah. And that's a deal because I charge the customers 20.
Yep.
Right. And so if you're getting for 7, but it just wasn't in the cards at the time, and that's fine. The point I was trying to make is like, I was hoping like when I can tell Sean this now, like I didn't have an expectation, but I was hoping that he would throw me some cash or whatever. I was hoping that these guys would throw me some cash, and it's just like, it just wasn't working. Like everything I was trying just wasn't working. And 2022 was the exact same way. Like this year, a bunch of the shit that I was doing just wasn't working. And I spent a lot of time making plans and watching them fucking fail at first contact. It was just like,
it's part of running a business, dude. You're going to take a whole lot of L's before you finally figure out what works.
So many L's. Like this year, 2022 was my first year actually being 100% full time. I say I've been doing it full time since
Last
2020.
year?
This current year, sorry.
That's 23.
23. The 23 years, sorry. Again, bad with dates.
You're good.
2022, I was working with the shop.
Mm-hmm.
21, the end of 21. So like the winter of 21 into 22, I was working with the shop.
Mm-hmm.
They sold the shop. And then this year was my first year actually full time, 100% committed to only shooting photos.
Okay.
I didn't do anything on the side all this year. I've just been photos and everything. So this year I ramped up. So my idea was beforehand, I was trying to make the most out of every event that happened. Like I was trying to be like, okay, how can I make more money at this event than the next one? And now this year, my thought was, how do I make enough money to where I can pay a bill at this event? Because if I go to an event a week, I can pay a bill a week. How do I make enough money at this event to afford to go to the next one and pay a bill, whatever it is? You know, the big events can pay for rent, right? There's a big event a month. I know I got rent covered a month, but how do I go to this? How do I afford to go to this next event?
Right.
And so this year I was just focusing on going to the next one and to the next one and to the next one and to the next one. And then Alaska happened, which was
Before we get into Alaska,
okay.
because this is going to be a whole thing.
Yeah.
How many events have you done this year?
Oh shit. I don't really know. I think
Ballpark, like 15,
no more than that.
20.
Probably like 2025.
That's a lot.
I didn't see my house for 12 weeks. 3 weeks ago? Man. Didn't see it. Was not home.
That's insane.
Was back to back to back to back to back.
And
events.
ballpark, what does it cost to make one of these events? Like $1,500 maybe?
Minimum. Yeah, minimum.
So you've spent probably over $30,000 just making these events?
Yeah.
I want you guys to take that in. He has spent $30,000 of his own money to make it to these events.
Yes. So like I spend more money than I make. Thank God for tax reasons, but
yeah,
I make just enough to get by. I made just enough to get by this year. I've been surviving by the skin of my teeth. I've been, now that I again grow up and I'm more apt to accept help. I've gotten help from family. But I spent a minimum of 1,500 probably per event. And then we started sleeping in our car, which helped. So I did a bunch of events where I slept in my car. So I shot this event, or not this event, Southeast Street Meet. In spring, I slept in my car there. I slept in my car for Radio Roundup. I slept in my car for a bunch of events. And for those that don't know, I drive a 98 Camaro.
You slept in that car?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I slept in that car.
But you've also been doing stuff to that car.
Yes. So the thought process is after Race Week has always known me as like having a cool car. And I think it gives me a competitive edge over others because most other photographers drive like a fucking Civic or a Pilot or Jesse Fox drives a cool car. It's a Volvo wagon that's like slammed on its nuts, turbo, whatever. But I started to notice a pattern that people were like, oh, were you that guy in that white truck that was taken? And I'm like, yep, that was me. And they're like, that thing's fucking badass. And then it opens a door for a conversation, right?
I feel like when I had the RS3, that was when I had the most bookings with other cars.
Exactly. Because you're relatable to them, right? You have you have an icebreaker.
You're one of them. You don't feel like some kind of outsider.
Right.
Yeah.
And everything that I do, like it may sound dumb to drive a 98 Camaro everywhere, right? But it's all I'm trying to do is thin the ice. So when I break it, it's way easier.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
It
works way better than anyone realizes.
Way better. Because everybody's a photographer these days, right?
Yeah.
But not everybody's a fucking car guy.
Yeah.
And I'm a car guy first.
Yeah.
Like I love cars.
Same.
I live life like that. And so driving a cool car, not even a cool car, but a car that they can relate to, it breaks the ice so much easier and so much quicker than like if I had driven a minivan or whatever, something that makes sense to drive.
Shots fired at Caleb Krebs.
I actually met him for the first time yesterday.
Yesterday, really?
Yeah, I did. I was doing a photo shoot in Tulsa, which I never do anymore because, but and he was riding like Lime scooters and I was like, are you? And I'm like,
you just bumped into him?
Yeah.
What the hell?
Randomly. The first time I ever met the kid. Like I say kid, he's probably my age, but first time I ever met the guy.
How old are you?
25.
Yeah, I think he's about your age.
Yeah. So, the first time I ever met him. We talked on the internet a few times.
Dude, we've been good friends for years.
No idea. I know no clue who he was. Like
that's crazy.
I've never met the guy. Like I knew who he was, but I never put, face to a page. And so he's like, are you are you Chris Story? Like, I thought you were because of the mustache. And I'm like, yeah, man, what's up? We're racing the sun, so I didn't get a good conversation with the guy. But yeah. So anyways, my thought process was I got rid of that blue truck that caught on fire twice. I think that was in the recording before it stopped. And I sold that truck and I bought this Camaro. Well, my thought process was the car I drove in high school or after high school rather, was a 2000 Camaro. It was a car I raced for a long time. But what I remember from it is the 6B car, I got really good gas mileage. Like my car was like max effort, heads cam intake. And I got like 27 miles to the gallon with it, like that.
What?
Yeah. Before I did like the crazy heads cam intake, I got like 30, 31.
That's crazy.
And so my thought process was, okay, I'm going to buy another 6B car and I'm just going to drive it because it's cool enough. Like it's comfy enough. The back is so big. Like I can fit everything in the back.
Because it's like a hatch, right?
Yeah, it's a hatch, right? It's new enough that it shouldn't break. It should be fairly reliable, right?
I mean, it's GM LS. Like what could go wrong?
Right. And it's something that I'm very comfortable with because I've had them before in the past. I've had 5 or 6 F bodies before. I'm very comfortable with the platform. I know them like the back of my hand. I know what breaks. I know what doesn't break. I know what to bring. I know what not to bring. And I know that I can get at least 28 miles to the gallon in it. And so I bought the silver car. And so I drove that most of last season until I broke the transmission, and I haven't been able to afford to fix it yet. But yeah, terrible, right? But you get what you get. I was an idiot. Like the other part of the reason why I bring a cool car to stuff is like I also want to participate in these events just as bad, but I just can't afford to.
Right.
So this is how I afford to. So like I'm also an asshole that does burnouts with everybody, and like there's a video of me doing like a 3rd gear burnout at the circuit. Like I like to party, right? So which again helps with relatability with the clients, right? So I love to be a part of the community as much as I can. I'll bust ass on a practice tree just like anybody else. Like it's a good time. So anyways, I drive that, done a lot of sleeping in it this past year. I don't know, probably like 7 to 10 events. I probably slept in that car.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And there was a large portion of this year where I didn't have any help. So I just had to drive myself places, lots of hours on the road by myself.
And that sucks because if you have a co-pilot and you can edit during travel time, that makes such a massive difference.
Yeah, absolutely. It does.
When I did, what was it? It was Streetcar Takeover in Bandamere, RIP Bandamere.
RIP.
I went in 21 and I remember on the way back, because I went with Sophie and Tanner Fox.
Yeah.
And I was in the back of Tanner's F-250, like sprawled out just with my laptop. And I was like, dude, if I had a driver for events, this is so doable.
Yeah, absolutely. All the big drag and drive events, I always have a driver with me because I need to shoot rollers. It's part of my package deal that I have with people. Again, another thing that separates me from most.
Yeah.
And so I either brought my brother along or my wife would come or I would hire somebody, which was expensive because I've been on the shit end of the stick. I try my best if you're going to work for me, like to take care of you. And anyway, like I'll sleep in the car, you sleep in the hotel room, kind of shit. And so that was getting expensive to do that. But slept in that car a lot this year.
That's nuts. Just to make it happen.
Yeah.
Like that is dedication.
Yeah. And it sounds dumb because like you'd just be like, just buy a Suburban or something. But I wanted to have that relatability. Plus the car got fucking fantastic gas mileage. Like, that car got 32 miles to the gallon pretty consistently.
And I mean, if you do the math, really, like the cost of the Suburban over the Catfish, then you factor in fuel economy, you're right at about a cheap hotel a night, but you're just sleeping in a Suburban.
Exactly. Yep.
So everybody who goes to these drag and drive events, remember at the end of the event, when you look at how much money is in your bank account, this man is sleeping in his fucking car to get you photos. Yep. Don't be stingy with the tips.
Yeah, no, the community's taken really good care of me this year. And, I changed my program a little bit this year. So I brought on a few companies. There's a few potential companies I haven't confirmed with, but like Dietrich is a company that came onto my program and they're going to sponsor the free to download album, which is a huge help. Like this year is hopefully the first year I won't be a broke dick the entire year, Yeah. So I shouldn't have to do much sleeping in my car this year, but, it could happen. Who knows? The world sucks and life loves to throw you curveballs, but it knows that I'm okay with it and I will do it. But yeah, last year, like this past year has been a melting pot of just all sorts of trial and error and figuring out what works and realizing what doesn't, and, you know, sleeping in the car, eating fucking McDonald's every day because it was the cheapest shit, and just working out when you can, or eating one meal a day. Like there's a lot that doesn't.
Usually that's all you have time for.
Yeah.
Like even just shooting these private rentals here locally.
Yeah.
I'll be done. I'll be like, man, I feel like shit. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah, I forgot to eat.
breakfast was like 9 hours ago.
Yeah, when I was hiring people to drive for me, it was like, okay, well, your job is to drive for me and to bring me water because I will forget to drink water.
Yep.
And bring me food because I won't eat unless you
Yep.
bring it to me. And like my wife is great at that because she actually cares about me. So like she'll bring me food and like water, and you know, like I just get into a mindset like I'm just working.
Yeah,
can't.
I tell people all the time, like, sorry if I was like a dick at the event or whatever, if I just, you know, wasn't chatty or seemed like I was in a bad mood. I'm in work mode. I'm laser focused on doing my job, and that's it. That's the only thing on my mind.
Yeah, I got really bad because I'm kind of I like to think that I'm a pretty personable guy, so I can kind of chat it up with anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I'll chat up with people, but now I'm much better at being like, okay, hey, I gotta go. Sorry. Like I'll come back and find
See,
you.
I'm the opposite. I'm like, don't talk to me. I'm in work mode.
Yeah. I need to be more like that if I'm being honest, but I've, you know, I've been on the other shit end of that stick also where I've wanted to meet somebody and they're just in laser work mode, focus, whatever you want to call it. And I'm just like, hey, I just want to say hi. Like there's nothing going on right now. Can I say hi? And they're just like, if they're not shooting, they're looking at emails, and if they're not looking at emails, they're shooting or whatever. I'm like, I get it. I'm in that same way. But
That's
also
kind of lame though. If you're not like actively engaged in something.
Yeah. There's a few guys that are, especially in the drift scene and stuff, that are kind of
Whatever.
Yeah.
Drift people are different. Drag racing's where it's at.
Drag racing is where it's at. If you're wanting to get into motorsports, either get into road course or get into fucking drag racing, because those are the only two people that pay.
Road course is really fun to shoot too.
It's so fun.
Yeah, the Oklahoma Subaru group had a track day at Hallett like in October, I think, and I got paid to shoot that, and that was
cool.
fun.
It's so fun. I want to do more of it later. This year is going to be solely drag racing. So this year is the first year that I have nothing but drag racing on the schedule. Previous years, like I've dabbled in rally, I've dabbled in road course, I've dabbled in whatever else you can probably think of that has an engine. Like I probably tried to shoot it. And it was just, again, trying shit to see what works, and realizing that it's pretty much the road course guys that have money and want to spend it, and the drag race guys that have money and want to spend it.
Dude, in 21, I was hell bent on following IndyCar. I just, with the childcare situation, because I have full custody of my son, it's like, can't make the math.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
I'm very fortunate I don't have kids at the moment.
Live it up, man.
Yeah, no, for sure. There's a lot of contributing factors. Again, God's timing is hilariously how it's supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
So like, I'm very fortunate that my life has played out the way that it has, because it could have turned a few different times, you know. But
For sure.
is what it is.
So let's talk about probably one of the craziest trips you've ever done.
Yeah.
The trip you took with Phil.
Yeah. So
what was that, and how did that even happen?
So the funny thing is Phil and I weren't really friends before that. Like we were kind of acquaintances. Like we knew each other from like hanging out in Tulsa, and you know, we kind of knew of each other. Like,
so he's local to Tulsa?
He lived in Tulsa for a long time.
Is he in OKC now?
He's in Houston now.
I saw him at an OKC Cars and Coffee not too long ago.
His girlfriend lives in Oklahoma City.
Oh, okay, that makes
so
sense.
he spends a bunch of time there now.
Okay.
He lives in Houston. He moved to Houston. I don't know when. But we met at Race Week 2.0, I believe, and it was just kind of like, hey man, like you're that guy, and it was kind of like the Spider-Man meme where you're like pointing at each other, and yeah, we weren't really like super good friends. Like it was just kind of like not because we hated each other or anything like that, but it was just because we just didn't know each other. And he messaged me and was like, hey, I'm thinking about going to the Alaska Speedway thing. Do you want to go with me? And I was like, yes, I'll go with you. Like, no questions asked. Like, if you're down to do it, like I'm down to do it. So I put it on the schedule. I kind of started blocking stuff off. And like, I think 2 weeks before the event, he goes, or no, it was 3 weeks before the event. He goes, hey, you know, if I can get in, we're going. If I can't get in, we're not going. You know, so we started talking logistically, like what it's going to look like. You know, like how are we going to split it up? How's it, you know, how are we going to pay for this fucking wild trip that we're about to do? Trying to decide whether or not we were actually going to drive the car or if we were going to haul it. And of course we landed on, we're going to drive the car. And so like the registration for the event came out like, it was like 2 weeks before the event started. Or
Damn.
no, I'm sorry. I have the timeline backwards. It was or different.
Typical.
Yeah, I'm so bad at it. It was like 2 weeks before when we had that conversation, and then it was like the week before the registration was like 3 weeks before the event. So we essentially had 2 weeks to plan it, and because it takes a week to get there.
Yeah.
If you're going to drive. And so he's like, if I get in, we're going. I'm like, I'm down. And I think we were both kind of hoping that like he didn't get in because it's a fucking,
It's just a big ordeal.
it's a huge ordeal to go to. It's 3 weeks anyway you look at it, because it's a week there, a week at the event, and a week back.
Yep.
And that's hauling ass. That's 20-hour days. It's like really getting after it.
Yeah.
And so he was kind of hoping that I was going to say no at some point, and I was kind of hoping that he wasn't going to get in because it was like a fucking wild trip. But I was down. Like I'm one of those guys. Like I've always been that guy that like my friends would call if they want to go see a car 6 hours away and they want somebody to go with them. Like, hey, what are you doing today? I'm like, not shit. They're like, you want to go to Kansas? I'm like, yeah, let's go. Like, come pick me up, or vice versa. I'm like, hey, like if it's under 6 hours, I will say yes to do it in a day. I don't give a shit. Like I'm down to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so. And at this point also, like I've just been saying yes to every opportunity that opens. So like if it was an opportunity, I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm gonna fucking figure it out. We're going. And so, blindly saying yes to it. The funny thing is I didn't plan any of that trip at all. At like 0%. Phil did everything. Granted, Phil loves to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm such a fluid whatever. Like
just whatever happens, you
whatever
just go
happens.
with it.
I'll figure out tomorrow's problems tomorrow, and I'll figure out today's problems today. So like, I don't do any planning. I don't do any of that shit. You should. Don't be like me. It's an easy way to get jacked over a bunch of times. But so the registration comes out, and of course nobody wants to go to fucking Alaska because it's a trip.
Yeah.
And so we got in, and so he calls me and he's like, "Hey man, we're going to Alaska." I was like, "Okay, we're going to Alaska." And it was like, I think it was a week later, or maybe 2 weeks. And he was at my door. And so for those that don't know, we drove my buddy Phil's C601 from Tulsa, Oklahoma to Palmer, Alaska and back, which is...
How many miles is that?
I don't know the mileage offhand. It was supposed to be a 68-hour trip. Breeze mouthing 3,000 miles.
13.
The total trip was 13,000.
13,000 miles?
Yeah. Yeah. So the whole trip was like 13,000 miles. So the trip was supposed to take us 68 hours if we just drove straight. So we assumed like 75 with stops or whatever. Car gets 22 miles a gallon. We get 330 miles to a tank. So we were planning on stopping. I think it was, however the math worked out, however the math.
I think every 250 miles or so.
Yeah. Yeah. And so there's a few concerns with driving your car to Alaska, right? The Alcan is a terrible road.
Where's that at?
The road that goes to Alaska, the Alaskan Highway.
Oh, okay. So Alaska to Canada.
Correct.
Yes.
Or Canada to Alaska, rather.
The Alaskan Highway.
Right.
Did you see the whole thing with Evan Lewis?
I didn't watch the whole thing. I haven't had the time to dedicate to watch it, but
you know about that.
I do know about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, that was...
Yeah.
Anyways.
Ridiculous. That guy's a fucking nut.
We stayed at my house for 4 days.
I know. You learned a lot, man.
I did, yeah.
So the Alcan is a terrible highway. We drove on about 400 miles of gravel, to put it in perspective.
Oh.
Just unpaved road, which was smoother than the actual Alcan is.
Yeah.
The trip up was really fairly uneventful, to be honest with you. We cracked a wheel in somewhere Canada. It's kind of a blur. I don't know.
Northwest, probably.
Yeah, Northwest Canada.
Where it starts getting hairy.
Yeah. Cracked a wheel on a bridge transition. So we were like, fix the wheel.
Because, he was on street tires and they were like...
Yeah, because we're
30
idiots.
profile.
Yeah, because we're idiots. And it's a 01, so like for the brakes to clear, it has to be like an 18 or a 19-inch wheel. I don't remember. I think it's a 19-inch wheel. You can get away with some 18s, but they have to be the right offset and whatever.
Right.
And so we were on the stock chrome 01 wheels, which are 20s, which the tire was a 345 25 20.
25s.
25 millimeter sidewall.
Oh my God.
Which is nothing. It's like tiny.
Yeah.
And we didn't hit any pot. We hit a single pothole when we went to Alaska. Phil somehow missed all of them. So the other fun thing about this trip is that Phil did all but 6 hours of the driving.
Oh, what?
125 hours that we drove that trip. He drove 119 of them.
Wow.
Not because he didn't trust me, but just because like it was a 2-person job to drive a ZR1 to Alaska because we're both looking for potholes. We're both looking for animals. The wildlife is everywhere.
Oh yeah, that's so sketchy.
Dude, like we were driving and kind of falling asleep because we had been driving for like 20 hours or whatever. And like a moose just came out of fucking nowhere. Like, oh shit. Like, oh God. And if you've never seen a moose before, it is quite large.
Yeah, they're huge.
They're massive animals.
the
They're
size of an
2
RV.
tons.
Yeah.
They're a 4,000 pound animal. It's ridiculous.
They look like mythical creatures.
They do. They look terrible.
They're scary.
They look like a total ZR1, you know? So it is a 2-person job to drive a Corvette to Alaska because you have to be on. Like, you know, like pothole here, pothole there, pothole here. Like we're driving kind of like how the jet boats drive. We're like, you know, paying attention, look for wildlife. There was a point in the trip.
It's like a really boring Group B.
Yeah. Well, we averaged from Destruction Bay to, I don't remember, somewhere past that. We averaged like 22 miles for something like 600 miles. Like 22 miles an hour, sorry, for like 600. Yeah, it was a long time.
Oh, man.
Every gravel road was about 20 miles an hour. Most of the Alcan was about 20 to 40 miles an hour.
Oh.
Speed limit there is 55 to 60, by the way, the entire way.
But you just can't unless you're in some kind of a truck or something.
Yeah, something that you can hit potholes in and not give a fuck.
Yeah.
Every time a semi came, we pulled off the road because we didn't want to. If we shattered,
just get blasted with stuff.
Yeah, if we shattered a side glass window in that car, we're fucked because you're not going to get one. There's no Corvettes up there.
Right.
Nobody's dumb enough to buy a Corvette in Alaska. We drove through wildfires through Canada, so that was when Canada was burning to the ground.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
forgot about that.
Yeah. I kind of did too. I'm kind of hairy. I have to have the notes to like exactly remember where it was. But we started the Alcan Drive and we were staying somewhere in Canada between Banff National Park and the Destruction Bay area. And
I want to go to Banff so bad.
It was wild.
It looks like a Disney movie.
It is a Disney movie. It's insane. However, the tourists,
probably terrible.
So many.
Yeah.
It kind of killed it, but it was cool to like see it though. It was cool because I'm a big Peter McKinnon fan.
Yeah, dude, the bucket shot.
Yeah, I saw it and was like, holy shit.
Yeah,
this is wild,
right?
Yeah. So, anyways, we drove through forest fire, so like couldn't see probably 2 feet in front of us. There was like deers crossing. Like it was starting to get like weird to breathe, and the visibility was bad. The exterior of the car, so it has like an exterior temp, and it went from like I don't remember exactly. It went from like 5 degrees Celsius to like 9 degrees Celsius. Like it was getting warm and like
weird.
And it was really sketchy. And because you see embers and like, yeah. Whenever I have the time to finish that YouTube video, it'll be a cool one. But I drove through some forest fires. Getting to Alaska was just a fucking pain in the ass, dude.
I can't even imagine. You picked the worst car to do it in.
Yeah,
other than like maybe a McLaren, that might be worse, but
it would be worse. Yeah, it would definitely be worse than the ZR1. But it was a horrible time. Everybody asked me if it was comfortable. It was fantastic.
Yeah, C6, super comfy car. Yeah,
super comfy, and I fit perfect in a C6. Like I'm 5'11", like I fit great in a C6. Yeah. Feels shorter than I am.
That's one of the things I love about C6s and C7s is if you're a bigger dude, it's just like a Porsche. It'll fit you comfy. It's not like a Lotus.
No, dude, those things are terrible.
Yeah,
you kick your shoes off. You're just chilling. Good time. Great car. It's pretty much a Chevy truck with a supercharger. You know, like. And we treated it as such. The trip there it was atrocious. Like there's so many subplot stories that we could talk for hours just on the Alaska deal. But the cool thing for me for the Alaska deal obviously was driving to Alaska. We did a bunch of crazy shit while we were there, like crazy side-by-side rides. And we got stuck on a glacier. That didn't come out. So
what?
The locals were like, hey, what are you doing Saturday? We're like, well, we're trying to leave the Saturday after the event. And they're like, well, if you want to, like, we can go see this glacier. Okay, well, I've never seen a fucking glacier. Let's go see. And so we drove to the guy one of the organizers of the event, he lives next to the glacier. Fucking why wouldn't he? It's Alaska.
Right.
So we drove side-by-sides. Phil rode on a 4-wheeler with his sister. His sister flew to Alaska to hang out with us for the week.
What?
Yeah.
Bougie.
Yeah, Faye, you're bougie, wherever you see this. Anyways, so they rode on a 4-wheeler. I was in a side-by-side with a guy named Steve, who Steve is like, if you see a picture of him, like the pictures I have of him are like, he is a dude that lives in Alaska, like 44 Magnum on his chest, like belt, like waist-high waders. Like,
Does he have the flannel though?
I don't remember if he was wearing a flannel. I think he had one.
You have to.
I'm sure he did. I'm sure he had 40.
It's like a state law.
That place is wild, by the way.
Oh, I can only imagine.
It's either great people or people running away from very bad crimes. There's no in between. There's zero in between. We met this guy at a bar in Anchorage that was like running away from like a double homicide that he did. And he was just cool about it. He was like, yeah,
talking about it? Like,
yeah. And we looked him up later and he's like, oh, that dude really did stab that guy. That's crazy.
Double kill.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But anyway, so we went to this glacier and Steve, the guy was like, why don't you just go hop on a floating rock? Okay. So we went up there. Or no, I think I was like, I want to go stand on it. And so there was a kind of like 2 ice bridges and we could hop across them. Or like 5 or 6 of us went, bless you. Yeah. 5 or 6 of us went and hopped like island hopped across to the main piece of the glacier that was still attached to the rest of it. And the thing that they don't tell you about the glacier water is it is ridiculously deep. Like,
yeah.
It's maybe a foot deep, maybe 2 feet deep, and then it's 25 feet deep.
Oh.
It's a shelf. And so you like look down and you realize like, oh, there's nothing down there but the bottom side of this glacier. It is deep and very cold. And so anyways, like 5 or 6 people hop across and the 6th person hops across. And the way that it was like constructed is like the main piece of the glacier's here and the piece of the rock that we were on was kind of like on it like this. Well, the last guy hopped on and it broke.
Oh.
And flew
Separated.
Separated.
Oh my gosh.
And so now it's us and probably like a 10-foot gap to the dirt. Well, the dirt is also not stable. It's like falling out because there's nothing underneath it besides I don't even fucking know what, but it's like silty, kind of like sand almost. And it's just like a melting pot of just terribleness.
How'd you get back?
So, a couple of the locals came and they brought their side by side with a winch and we winched a piece from like over here over, I gotta stop hitting this mic. Sorry. Over to like where we were at. And then Faye and Phil went first. So we had an original piece that kind of like drifted over and they were able to hop across and get to the other side just fine. And then me, Christopher Michaels and someone else, I don't remember. I think it was just me and Christopher Michaels. Oh no, I'm sorry. Faye went first and then that piece floated away. And then we brought some other pieces. Well, Phil went after Faye did. And then Christopher Michaels, if you don't know who he is, he's one of the VinWiki characters.
Oh, really?
The guy with all the piercings in the cartel truck. I don't know if you've seen that before.
I haven't seen him. I've seen a few of the VinWiki episodes, but I don't think I've come across any of his stuff.
Super rad dude. Guy's fucking awesome dude. He's a friend of my friend David Williams, the other guy that drove from the lower 48 in his Suburban. All 3 of those dudes, him, a guy named Bradley, and David drove David's Suburban from the southernmost point in America to the northernmost point in America, and like an 82 Turbo LS Suburban. It's wild. Those guys are insane. But so it was me and Christopher on this rock, and Christopher like wouldn't jump. Like, Christopher, you got to jump, dude. Like, we have to go. Like, it wasn't life or death, but it felt like life or death at the time because I'm like frigid.
Oh, I'm sure things could go south in a second.
That's what I was thinking, man. I'm like, look down, like this water's really deep. Hindsight being what it is, you wouldn't have died. You just have to ride back naked, and with the heater on because one of the side by sides had heaters. But at the time, it felt very intense, and so I was like, "Hey, dude, you gotta go! Like, hurry up!" So I got tired of him. Like, I got tired of waiting on him, so I just like kind of like brushed past him and I jumped across. I'm like, "Oh well, like if you die, you die." Like,
I made my choice. Your turn.
Yeah. So that was a shit show of a time. I remember like all the details. That whole trip was like a blur. And it's part of like my mental deal, like just putting shit in the back burner and thinking about it later. But without having pictures there, I can't really recall all the particulars. So then that trip put us a day behind. The latter part of this trip is we had to drive back to make it to Race Week 1.0.
Oh man.
Right.
So you immediately back to back did another event?
Yeah. I did 4 events in a row. So I did an event
Starting with Speed Week.
Correct. Yeah. No. Sorry. Starting with King of the Open Road, Oklahoma.
Okay. And
So
then you went straight from that to
Correct.
Alaska Speed Week.
So King of the Open Road was the week before we had to leave for Alaska, the weekend before. So we did that. We left on Tuesday for Alaska. We drove to Alaska, did Alaska Speed Week. We're a day behind. So Phil and I had to essentially do the way we had it worked out, or the way Phil had it worked out rather, was like we had 4 12s and a 20-hour day.
Mm-hmm.
And what it ended up being was like 4 18 or 3 18s and 2 22s. And then on the trip back, it was like a 33, a 48, or no, it was a 22, a 33, and then like 2 more 20-hour trips.
You guys taking shifts?
Oh, Phil drove the entire way.
He drove 33 hours straight?
No, I drove. That was the day that I drove 6 hours.
Oh, okay.
So we drove down to.
You drove 27 of those?
Mhm, yeah. He slept for 6 hours and then drove the rest of the way. Yeah, that dude's a fucking mod. Like, he's a machine. And the funny thing is like normally, like when I drive, because I drive a lot, like I'll be like listening to podcasts or a book or like something to keep my mind stimulated. He listens to the same fucking like 8 songs on his playlist. Dude, it's like he's such a Swiftie. It's hilarious.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So
You don't have to do Phil like that on the podcast.
oh, dude, he loves it. that was another interesting detail about our trip there is there's 0 cell service out there.
Yeah, I
Like
believe
between towns, there's nothing.
it. I believe it.
Nothing. You
Yeah.
won't see another car for hours. You
Evan
won't-
got stranded because he was up on the top part of the Alaskan highway when his RS6 took a shit.
yeah, and he was probably there for hours.
Days.
Yeah, I believe it. So we got there and we're like, oh, we don't have any music. So we listened to the same fucking 25 songs.
Oh, dude, yeah. If you don't
For
have
80
Spotify,
hours.
you have to download your Spotify stuff before you go.
Yeah, I had my shit downloaded, but my phone was broken, so the jack didn't work. Yeah, so we just listened to Phil's fucking 25 songs. We didn't think about it. And so the entire trip fucking back, we listened to the same 25 fucking songs.
Were you guys like singing the songs
Oh,
together?
yeah, dude, we know all the words. Yeah, and then so we cracked another wheel on the way back. And so we had to get that fixed. And that was that 33-hour day. We spent a bunch of time in Canada trying to get a tire. So like the insides of the tires were wearing because we had the car so loaded down with the trailer and all of our shit and all the shit we got from Alaska, like all the souvenirs or whatever. So the insides of the tires were wearing. So we just needed somebody to flip the tires.
Yeah.
And nobody in Canada would touch it.
Why?
Because they have stupid laws and they don't have freedom like we do. And so
Ugh.
like they're like, yeah, if we flip it and they figure out that like we did it, like the Canadian government will shut us down. We just can't do it. So we ended up at a Walmart.
What?
Yeah, we ended up at a Walmart. We paid there's a guy that does race weeks. His name's Rovic, and he was our Canadian kind of like tour guide in that realm. And I think it was a Walmart or like their equivalent to a Walmart.
Yeah.
And they were just like, hey, this is what it is. We just need you to do this. We know it's illegal. We don't give a shit. Like, we're from Texas. We don't care.
Right.
And that guy helped us out and flipped the tires. And then we drove the rest of the way on that. And then because we were so late, we were like missing tech for race week by the time we got back. So we didn't like really stop. So our plan was to stop in Denver and stay at our buddy Nick Ball's house and just like hang out there for a little while. And we just didn't. We drove straight to Nebraska and started race week right off of Alaska Speed Week. Like,
Jeez.
had just gotten done with like a 12 or 13 hour drive. No, I'm sorry. I misremembered. We did stop at Nick Ball's house because we drove back with Nick Ball. But we were at Nick's. We got to Nick's at like maybe midnight, maybe a little later than that. And we had to get up at like 6 to leave for race week the next day. Oh, dude, it was terrible. And then we went straight into race week, which was the same route as race week 1.0, but it was 2.0 this year.
Yeah.
So we did King of the Open Road, Alaska Speed Week, race week. And then I did another event after that. I don't remember what it was. Yeah, it was like 4 weeks in a row. And then I had like a week off, and then I just did my 12-week stint. Just events back to back to back to back. And then yeah, now we're kind of here. But yeah, this year has been ridiculous, and I've just been saying yes to everything. You know? If it's like, and the same is true. Like, I'm going to the TRC Street Kings event this weekend, and I didn't know it was happening until maybe Sunday. I was on the way back, or I was on the way home from. I shot a T&E Productions Streetcar Shootout this past weekend. So
Down at Ennis?
Yeah, down in Ennis.
Okay.
And Jacob Letty was like, hey, there's this event in Bradenton. You want to go? I'm like, fuck, okay, yeah, I'll go.
Damn.
Yeah, so I'm going to Florida on Thursday. So that's a thing. So then
Say hi to Cletus for me.
I will, yeah. I'll say hi to Garrett for you. So I was supposed to do that, and then I was supposed to go back to North Carolina to do Dig or Die, which I'm just not. I'm not.
Man,
I'm going to take a week. I'm going to spend some time with family. We're going to have family over and have our Thanksgiving dinner that we weren't able to have because I was working.
Jeez.
Yeah. So
Are you going to be home for Christmas?
no, because I'm going to shoot the Christmas tree race in Florida.
Oh, okay, that's pretty sick. That's a good excuse.
Yeah. So I'm going to Bradenton this weekend. I was supposed to go to North Carolina the weekend after that, and then go back to Bradenton the following week for the Christmas tree.
How
race.
far is that drive? That's got to be 20.
It's
plus
18 hours. It's 18 hours if you don't stop. It ends up being like 22 if we just stop for gas, and it ends up being like 25 or 6 if we stop and get a hotel room halfway.
Man.
Yeah. Which I've done that trip 3 or 4 times this year, I think.
This year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You can go into everything, you know. I put my Camaro by itself I put 29,000 miles on the Camaro this year. We've put 21,000 miles on her car this year, and that's not including the 13,000 miles we drove to Alaska and back, and to race week because we rode the field for race week, which was ended up being like 18,000 miles, I think, and not including sick week because I was in a rental car for sick week.
I hope you're tracking mileage for write-offs.
I am, yeah. I'm gonna have to go back through and really make sure, but yeah, we've done. I mean, dude, I've got to be kissing 100 this year. I have to be.
That's crazy. I thought I was bad putting almost 30 on my truck. I bought my truck in March with 31,000 miles, and I'm just about to crack 60K on it. I thought I was like really, really bad.
Yeah, no, I don't value mileage. So like my Camaro's got a butt ton of miles, and I don't care.
See, I do because my truck's a 21.
Yeah,
so
it makes sense for you. It doesn't make sense for me.
That shit got upside down so fast.
Oh yeah,
Oops.
but it's a good truck. You know,
if you drive a lot, don't buy anything new or nice.
Yeah, or don't expect to make any money on it when you sell it.
No. That's insane. 100K roughly.
Yeah, I would have to go and like triple check, but between our two cars, like I have at least 50 between our two cars.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So with the wintertime, with it starting to slow down, do you still have like a good list of events that you're going to be at that you have good pre-orders for, or kind of like what's that outlook for these next few months?
No, so the next few months I'm kind of winging it, to be honest with you.
Just show up and hope people
Yeah.
appreciate what you do.
Yeah.
Man.
I have been so laser focused on the drag and drive season that like I didn't think about December, January, to be honest with you. So like December's kind of taken care of now because I'm going to the Street King events next week, and Javier's being cool enough. He's going to pay me to go.
Nice.
Super nice. Yeah.
Shout out to TRC.
Dude, TRC, those guys are the goats. TRC 3020, all these guys have helped me out a ton. Like we'll make it fast because I know we're running kind of long on time, but the World Cup finals, for example, like I've gotten denied for World Cup 3 years in a row for Media Pass.
Why?
I don't know. Well, they say my following every year. We're not,
You have to have a following to be approved?
it's ridiculous.
What?
Yeah. We can get into the particulars off camera because it involves a certain person, but
Okay.
yeah, so I wasn't able to go for 3 years because I just kept getting denied. So I just went to SEMA instead. Like, whatever, fuck it. I'm not going to go to World Cup finals. I'll just go to SEMA. And so this year I was shooting for Sean, and I needed a media pass, and you know, it's a testament to making connections. Madden.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is a testament to making connections with no expectation of them helping you with anything in the future.
Yeah.
Kyle Loftus helped me get a media pass for that. I just kind of like
Nice.
begging. I asked Scott Whitty, I was like, hey man, can you put me in a 30-20? Like, here's my situation.
Scott and Kyle are good dudes.
Great dudes, great people. So I'm very fortunate to have a relationship with them and the TRC guys. And so, yeah, that was a fucking shit show. That was a shit show of an event. If you've seen his videos, dude, that was a terrible time. It was a great time, but it was a terrible time at the same time.
World Cup?
World Cup, yeah.
Oh.
We got there and I was driving. So I did an event called Death Week,
Yeah.
which started and ended in Phoenix, and Phoenix and Maryland are 31 hours apart. If you didn't know, driving, and I had to drive. So I drove 31 hours by myself in 2 days, by the way. I had 2 days to do it. We'll call it 2.5 days. So I drove there and it ended up taking about 3 days because I hit a deer carcass and it ripped the entire underside of my Civic off, and I had to like do an oil change on the side of the road. It was a mess.
Oh.
So I was probably 30 minutes away from the track and I hadn't heard anything from him. And I was like, hey, how's it going? And I got a picture of like cylinder heads off the car with all the valves like fucking bent and like broken on their brand new, like,
Dude.
yeah. Which it wasn't, it was just an oversight because the engine builder didn't have any time to like really put his touch on it, if that makes sense. Like we kind of needed it soonish because he blew up the car at FL2K, and FL2K and Maryland are only like 4 weeks apart, and 4 weeks is not enough time to get a 2,000 horsepower rated engine like done. Yeah. And so they went and they took the car completely untested, which was a, whatever. And so
a lot of guys did that this year. I feel like there was a lot of slap together shit at World Cup.
Yeah. Well, like the Red Demon guy, he brought an extra billet block engine, right? And then he blew up his original engine, put a spare in. He's like, oh, cool, I got a spare.
Yeah.
Blew the spare up.
Yep.
And then mixed the two together to make one good-ish one. Blew it up, and then was like, okay, I'm fucking out of parts. Like I raced out of parts. So we broke an engine. We broke a rear gear and a 9-inch, which is ridiculous. We broke the pinion and a 9-inch. Broke a clutch.
What car was this? Just for
The
context.
Sean's white C6. Stick shift car.
Okay.
We broke a transmission at the last pass. Broke an input shaft. We broke, like, if you can break it, it broke.
What times was he doing when he was completing a pass?
That car is a bottom 6 second capable car. Stick shift.
Stick?
Yeah.
Damn.
It just hasn't given it to us yet.
Yeah.
But the car has been a best, if I remember right, of like a 714 at 198 miles an hour.
Okay.
But the car's light enough, makes enough power. All the components are there for a really fast record breaking car. It just hasn't had the right combination of stuff to make it happen yet. Which going that fast is ridiculously hard on stuff.
Right.
So, yeah, anyway, so like I'm like 30 minutes from Maryland and I get a text of like just broken parts. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, dude, I just drove 30 hours. So the thing that I didn't tell anybody about that, Bree knows because, we share the bank account. Like I drove there with $100 to my name because nobody I got 2 packages on Death Week. And I expected, because Death Week was a one-off event, that people would just buy photos off the website. Nobody bought anything off the website.
That's happened to me a couple times.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody. And I had people all week long go, hey, we want to buy stuff, Nobody fucking bought anything. So I was expecting to at least make like $500 because generally speaking, I'll make like $1,500 or so off the website, which generally goes straight into travel or whatever.
Yeah.
I made $0.00 off of Death Week. I made my 2 package sales, which is about $1,000. I borrowed, like, I still owe Phil money for hotel room, Phil and David money for hotel rooms from that event. And just like it's shit that people don't tell you about, like just trying to make your shit happen, right? And this is recent. This is like this World Cup.
Yeah.
This was a few weeks ago.
Right.
Yeah, so I drove there with like $100 to my name. I ate one time I ate twice in 2 days. One time I stopped at my house. She had made some soup out of just shit that we had because, again, we couldn't afford to get groceries. And so I ate once when I left Phoenix. I ate a McDonald's meal because if you get the app, you can get like a full meal for like $5, which is great when you're broke, right? It's terrible food for you. It's killing you, but when you got to eat, you got to eat, right? And so I spent that money there. I ran out of money. Probably, I needed one more tank of gas to get to Maryland, and so I needed, whatever it was, like $50 to get there. So I ended up borrowing like $50 from my little brother. Who doesn't have any fucking money at all. I'm like, hey, dude. That guy ended up selling like a part or something that I had for like $50, like just to make sure I could get there. I literally went there with $0.00 to my name. Like I had $1.33 in my bank account when I got to Maryland. Yeah. And the thing is like my dumb ass was like, when I was talking with Sean about it, I didn't think about a deposit, right? So when I got there and I was 20 minutes from the track and he sent me a picture of the engine broken, I was like, fuck. Yeah. I'm guaranteed no money. I drove 33 hours for nothing, for fucking absolutely nothing. And, man, I pulled the car over and I didn't fucking tell anybody this, but like I pulled the car over and just like sobbed to myself for like I don't know, probably 20 minutes. Like,
understandably, I couldn't imagine that.
I had so much time invested, and I invested literally every dollar I had to make it to this fucking event.
Yeah.
And it was rough, and thank God that he went down the route that he did, because we were able to make videos out of it, and I was able to make some money. Because the other thing was that we were banking on his money to pay for rent for whatever month that was, November. And so if this event didn't go well, if I didn't make the money that I was supposed to make for this event, like, we didn't have rent paid. I had no other option. So I had, right.
Bleeding edge.
And this is probably the 7th or 8th event this year that was been that way. Oh my God. And like, dude, I've given everything to this. Like, it's hard.
You really have.
Yeah.
More than everything.
Like, I've put us in shitty situations, like where again, like, she doesn't have any groceries at home either. So not only am I starving, but my wife is starving at home, and it's just, again, something that, like, people don't know. And it's not, I don't tell people because I don't want them to feel bad for me and give me sympathy. I don't give a shit. Right. Like, this is the path that I chose. I chosen a hard path, and I'm willing, and we're both willing to pay our dues in this hard path. Like, we've had our, water cut off. We've had this cut off, that cut off. We've been behind on car payments and just everything you can think of that's gone wrong has gone wrong this year. But yeah, that fucking trip, dude, it was like, if he didn't, he ended up buying John Dock's motor from Black Sheep. I don't know if you know about that deal. It was the record breaking hydraulic roller LS engine, badass engine. And so, like, he bought that. And then, like, so we at least had one video. So I'm like, okay, I can drive home. Like, I know that I can at least drive home. I could drive home. I can tuck my tail between my legs. Maybe I can ask uncle for some money or whatever. Which I think I ended up doing anyways. I think he helped us out that month, for rent and some other stuff. But, yeah, I'm like, dude, okay, I got rent, or I got enough money to drive home. Okay. I at least know that I can drive home. So the shitty part is as soon as the event was done, I had to edit the videos, because the way that I had written it to him was I had to edit the videos, and they had to be published before I got paid, which is an idiot move on my part. I was a dumbass. I didn't protect myself at all. And so, like, I edited these videos and I sent them to him. Actually, another piece of that story is on the way there. I edited a video for him, like, getting the car ready to go to the event. And that was the money that was supposed to get me the rest of the way there. So I stopped in somewhere, I think it was Albuquerque, somewhere in New Mexico, on the side of the road where my hotspot was getting enough data to where I can download the videos off of Dropbox, edit the video, and upload it to YouTube for him to approve it and post it, so I can send him a whatever $500 invoice, so that way I can make the trip and then eat while I'm there. And then I edited the video, and he goes, well, why don't you just send me one big giant invoice for the rest of it? And I should have just said no, but I'm an idiot and was like, sure, man, if that makes you feel better, like, we'll do it that way. And so that was part of the reason. Again, lesson learned, right?
Well, what happened with that?
He just paid me so, like, at the end of the event, I slept in my car, and I edited the rest of the World Cup videos in my car and sent them to him. And then I kind of was just like, hey man, I need you to pay me. Like, I can't afford to drive home. And he was like, oh, I didn't fucking know. Like, yeah, sure. Send me the invoice. And so he helped me out in that aspect, but, yeah, it was just a shit show, dude. And, lessons learned, obviously. But yeah, like, it's been that bleeding edge for so long. For this entire year, it's been that bleeding edge. Like, for example, the Alaska thing was so expensive to do. Like, it cost Phil and I collectively probably $15,000 to drive to Alaska and back. Phil more than me, because the part of the exchange was, like, I wasn't going to pay for gas because I was going to document his trip for him. Mm-hmm. But we split hotel rooms down the middle, and, like, hotel rooms were, like, we ended up being $35,000 or $4,000 just in hotels. Airbnbs. There's no hotels, by the way. You got to Airbnb. So, like, just that, I think fuel was like $7,000, if I remember right. And I paid for all the food because I felt bad. But I took a business loan out before that event, so I had money to go. Like, I didn't have the money to go when I left. Like, I got approval for the business loan when we were in Montana. And they were like, hey, like, the money hit my account. I was like, oh, fucking thank God. Like, I had like $40 or whatever. Yeah. Yeah, man. I'm an idiot. So, like, I blindly commit to this stuff and just say yes to it and figure it out when we get there. And I think it's because of my background. Like I'm so okay with having nothing, and I'm okay with eating dry ramen noodles because I've done it before. Like I'm okay with eating prison popcorn because I'm used to it. I'm okay with living off of one can of raviolis a fucking day. And like I'm so okay with it to the point where I'm not scared to give everything to something in hopes that I get enough to make it home. I'm okay with being a hobo for a few days. Like it, and I think to a certain degree, you don't have to do it the way that I do it, but if you're going to do it the way that I did it, you have to be that kind of stupid and crazy to do it.
I don't think I've ever met anybody personally who has given up so much and worked so hard to pursue what they want out of life.
Yeah, man. I want this more than I want to breathe. Like it is my entire day. Like and I'm really lucky that I have a life partner that's willing to deal with this kind of crazy, right? Because we don't have normal talks. Like all of our talks are about what's the future look like? What's the next move? What are we doing next? Like probably 20% of our conversations are like good, regular husband and wife conversations. 80% of them is like, what's the next move? Okay. Well, we have this $500. What can we do with this $500? What's the best plan of action for this $500? Okay. Well, now we don't have any money. Now what are we going to do? What kind of jobs can we take? She works her fucking ass off, picking up odd jobs, doing whatever to support this stupid fucking dream that I have, right? And I'm willing to die trying to make it work. And I think I've shown that. Like I haven't.
Oh, absolutely.
And in silent struggle too. Like I don't tell people because it's not worth the sympathy to me to like. And that's not what this is. This is just being transparent because
yeah, I had no idea how far you pushed yourself to make this happen. Like I knew it was going to be a lot, but
and you're a good friend of mine.
Yeah,
like, we talk regularly, right? And no idea. No. And nobody knows. And I keep it that way because I don't want people to fucking feel bad for me. And I think that's part of the way I grew up, part of the military stuff, whatever. But
I don't think anyone would feel bad for you. I think people would give you admiration for driving and pushing this hard to make it happen, because how many people are that brave or that determined?
I don't know that I call it brave. I call it stupid, but yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't think anyone would go, oh, poor Chris, he's struggling. I think people would go, holy shit, he did back-to-back events and drove 33 hours to make World Cup finals with $40 in his account to do this one job. Like, holy shit.
Drove by myself too.
That's one of the craziest things I've ever heard.
So the other three things about that too is like the car that we drive. It's a nicer car. Like Bree's car is a nice car because when we had the dog training business, like it was really important to me that I didn't have to worry about the car she was driving. Right? Yeah. But the thing is with that car is like the tires were all bad because I couldn't afford to put tires on it. So the front tires were dry rotted. The back ones were cupped and cording. So I drove the entire way on like bald tires, like stupid shit, right? Shit you shouldn't do. So like it rained for a piece of the drive and I could only do 20 miles an hour because I was hydroplaning everywhere I went by myself, driving at like 2-3 in the morning, like a fucking idiot, unsafe for me and other drivers. But like I said, I want this to work more than I want to breathe. And it will work because of that. Right. And I am willing to lose everything in order to get a piece of what I want, and not just in a selfish way, but in just like I've never wanted anything in life more than I want this, right? Obviously, my beautiful wife, I love her to death. She's the most important thing to me. Second is this dream that I have, like, and the only reason she's number one is no, it's not the only reason, but one of the only reasons that she's number one is because she's willing to let me go through this process and willing to be by my side during this process. Like,
how many people watching this would think your wife would be down to do this?
Yeah, she's a fucking bad motherfucker, dude. She doesn't get enough credit, and like this, it's a funny story because it's on my end and I'm the one telling it, but like, you have to remember, every time that I'm starving, she's starving. Every time my water's cut off, her water's cut off. Every time that I'm taking cold showers because I can't afford the gas bill, she's taking cold showers because we can't. Our fucking washer machine's been broken all fucking year long. She drives to the laundromat with all the quarters that she can find to fucking get and does the laundry for us. Like, I wouldn't be able to do it if I didn't have this partner. And I really hope in the next couple of years that she never has to worry about that shit again, right? But again, she doesn't get enough fucking credit. Like, she is the real reason why I'm able to do this. Like, because I could do it on my own, but there's a lot of times where she works a nanny job, for example. Like, she'll nanny for kids, which is a shit fucking job that she loves it because she's a great person. But like in hindsight, like if you just look at it on paper, it's a shit job to do. You're watching somebody else's shit ass kids for hours upon hours upon hours for fucking $10 an hour. But she's willing to do that for 8 hours to make $80 to send me 45 of them so I could drive to fucking Maryland. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's not a lot of people that are willing to put themselves to the side to let somebody else flourish. Like we started her business and it did really well for a long time, and it stopped doing so well. And that, you know, that sucks, but she's willing to put her shit to the side to fully commit to this with me. So like next year she's coming with me full time, and she's going to be like everything. Like my job is going to be photos and her job is everything fucking else. And she's okay with that. She's okay with having that burden and bearing that. And yeah, I really can't say enough about it. Like I would probably be a quarter as successful as I am this year if I wasn't for her. And if it wasn't for her willingness to fucking have nothing and struggle. And it's never been like, fuck you can't, like, fucking job having ass. It's never been that. We've never once had that conversation. It's always been, okay, well, this is the problem. How do we solve this problem? Right? We have $40. What can we do with this $40 right now? Can we go to the grocery store and buy a 6-pack of chicken and make fucking chicken noodle soup that's going to last us for 2 weeks? Or, you know, do we have to put this $40 towards the car payment because the car is about to get repoed? Like, it's just her willingness to struggle with me is ridiculous. And we have fucking struggled this year. Like what we've talked about in this, however long this has been, is just a scratch on the surface of the shit storm that we've been fucking, the shit sandwich that we've been eating on for 3 years now, you know?
I mean, you look at any great legendary success story,
Dude.
This is how it starts.
Yeah. I can't wait. I want, selfishly, I want to write a book, and that book is going to have all the details in it.
If anybody could, it would be you.
Dude, it's going to be fucking wild. But yeah, no, I can't say enough. I can't show enough love towards her, and like, obviously, like my uncle and my aunt and uncle helping in that aspect also. And they don't even know all the fucking struggles, right?
Yeah.
We suffer in silence. It's what we do. We don't bring anybody else into our shit sandwich. It's not their fucking responsibility. It's ours to figure out what we can do with what we have. And so, yeah, like it's ridiculous. Got a lot of love for that girl, dude.
That's great. Both of you together. I mean, just
Yeah.
what you guys have committed to and how you guys just make it work is crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody else that could pull off what you two do.
I don't know
making
either.
it happen is the logistics behind it is insanity.
I don't know how we do it either. It's literally, it's just like how we got through basic training, right? Like we work for the next meal.
Day
right?
at a time. Yeah.
Day at a time. How do you eat an elephant? One fucking piece at a time.
Yep.
Like if you look at the whole elephant, if I looked at this year, if somebody showed me this year on paper what it was going to be like, I would have been like, well, fucking nope. But you know, we solve our problems a week at a time, you know, a day at a time. And you know, that's the testament that the point of all of this that I'm trying to make is that that's how you do it. You have to let the bill collectors call you. They're going to fucking bug you, whatever. Get on a payment plan, pay them $40 a year. It doesn't fucking matter. You know, the tax man's going to bother you. You're going to get on collections. You're going to lose your ass off to start something great. But, you know, in the next couple of years, I guarantee it, there's going to be people in my comment section, dude, you're so fucking lucky. How'd you do that? You're so fucking lucky. How'd you do that? You're so fucking lucky. You're lucky. It's not luck, dude. It's years of this shit. It's been years of struggle bus.
Do you know why people say you're lucky? Because they can't fathom the alternative.
Yeah.
The life that you guys live, they can't comprehend it.
They don't understand.
That's how their brain fills it in is, oh yeah, their success is based on luck. They can't imagine having their utilities shut off so you could drive 30 hours to maybe or maybe not lose a job in Maryland.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And
that just doesn't compute to normal people.
Dude, it shouldn't. It's not a normal thing to do. And it's been years this way. I can't emphasize that how many years we've been struggling and just trying to make it. And now we're finally starting to see some fruits of our labor, and it's going to be, this is the 2024 season. And this is partially me manifesting. And I truly believe it is going to be the year that we finally break out of being broke dicks, is what I've been telling everybody. But it's the year of the comeback year, if we will. Like I've been so in the community for so long, but as like not in the spotlight, and that's how I've intended to do it that way, because when I've been making contacts, I've been working, and now it's time to kind of pay dividends to that, you know.
Yeah.
Tons of work on the side that nobody sees.
Right.
You know, and tons of rubbing elbows with the right people. Tons of like putting your wants and needs to the side to position yourself in a way that you can rub elbows with the right people. So if there's anything you can take away with that, like if you're going to start a business, it's hard fucking work that nobody tells you about. My best advice to you is to save up more than you think, to give yourself a legit cushion, and don't buy stupid shit.
Yeah. 100%.
You don't need it. You like if you
have to live on the absolute bare minimum.
Absolutely.
Until your business has proven itself.
There's a reason why I never bought a new camera for myself, right? Partially because I was broke, but the other part of it was the camera that I have was good enough to get the job done. And there was no need to justify spending the extra fucking cash that was my rent or my whatever. Mm-hmm. When the camera that I have, whether it sucks, and sometimes I miss moments because of it, it got the job done, and it was worth it wasn't worth spending the extra money to fucking make my job a little easier, you know. Right. It just takes years and years of that shit.
Yeah.
Years and years of it, you know. And then one day everybody's going to call you lucky, and you know what? You fucking are, because you fucking somehow survived that shit.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you guys coming down all the way from Tulsa today. I know you guys had other business in OKC. It's not just me, but
it actually was just you. We just like, hey.
Oh, well, thank you for making the drive and come down. I know Tulsa to OKC is absolutely nothing to you.
Yeah, well, it's like an hour from where I live. I live very, very west Tulsa, so I literally hopped on 44 because I live right off the highway, and just the whole way.
Well, it's not Arizona to Maryland, so
not Tulsa to Alaska.
yeah, we're that. Sheesh.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me. Thank you for the time. Thank you for giving me a platform to kind of express this in a little bit of a different light. I hope it helps both of us in ways, and I hope to see this fucking blow up, dude, because this is awesome. You know, I'm really excited. I love the podcast stuff. I'm really excited to see you excel in it.
Regardless, if I mean, this is going to sound corny, but I don't do this in hopes that it blows up or anything. I see this as I bought all this shit for my day job. Mm-hmm. It would be kind of a waste to not use it to tell people stories like your story. Absolutely. Or, you know, like Franz, who came over to the U.S. from Guatemala to start a detailing business, and now he owns one of the most successful shops probably in the Midwest.
I bet that dude struggled hard as fuck too.
Yeah.
I bet he was eating ramen noodles, and
that guy had dirt floors.
Yep. I had dirt floors when I was a kid. It was crazy. Humble beginnings.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's exactly why this is going to blow up, is because you don't want it to. Like, it's not that you don't want it to, but that you don't expect it to. It's not what you're doing. You're not doing it to blow up. You're doing it because you want to.
There's way too many people out there like you that have a story to tell. And, you know, it's like, if I don't take my time to do this, you might live your whole life all the way up till the day you die and not ever tell this story.
Yep.
And it's just too valuable to not share.
Yeah, absolutely. And no, absolutely.
All right. Well, we'll end it on that note, man. Thanks for coming down.
Yeah, absolutely.